And I'm not going to lie to you. This is going to be a tough start to the live stream. We went through to see how many people were in the $250 draft lobby. We joined, it filled immediately, which usually I'd be very excited about, but look at this. We're at pick 12, picking next to CSU Ram, legitimately probably the best fantasy football player, at least DFS player of all time. Oh, what? The worst draft spot with the toughest competition you're going to look for. We have it out for ourselves in this draft as we go through, prepare for our first round pick. Please, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like on this live stream, subscribe to the channel if somehow you are not subscribed as is. I mean, right now we are closing in on 90,000 subscribers. If we hit 90,000 subscribers instead of doing these live streams for 3 hours every single night like we usually do, we are going to go through. I am going to try to get a 24-hour live stream draft marathon going for you if we hit 90,000 subs. So make sure you go down there, subscribe, hit the bell next to the subscribe button if you want to be able to come out here as soon as we go live. And of course, if you want to see us hit 90, you better go down there and drop that like as well. But we have Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Stephon Diggs. Honestly, guys, this looks like the most boring draft I've ever seen. I mean, literally, this is a 1-for-1 with ADP up until this point. Every single drafter looks like they've just gone off of best player available according to ADP. Let's see what happens beyond this. I mean, Najee Harris off the board at 10. Let's see what CSU Ram. I believe we've seen him go Devontae Adams at like 8 before. I could be mistaken, but I believe we've seen him go Devontae Adams really early. Now, I understand everybody is going to assume that we are just locking in Joe Mixon here. Y'all know Joe Mixon is a running back that I actually really like. I think out of those tier 2 guys, he should be at the very top for you. But I'm going to try to mix it up a bit because this is pick 12. And pick 12 is legitimate hell on Underdog where you have to start 3 wide receivers. I'm going to go through. I'm going to pass on running back entirely. We are going to go ahead. We are going to take Travis Kelce and CeeDee Lamb. Y'all know in a shallow redraft format, 100% you take Joe Mixon here. You don't even think about it. But in a Underdog draft where you have to start 3 wide receivers, it does get very difficult. Let's go ahead. Let's take CeeDee Lamb. Let's just avoid the need to reach on wide receivers later on, as you're going to see a lot of teams do on Underdog. And of course, if you want to have some fun, if you want to get in these best ball drafts with us on Underdog Fantasy, which we do on the live stream every single night, you can find the link to that in the description of the video. You can find the link to it in the comment section. And because I literally busted my ass to get all this, if you go and make that $10 deposit on Underdog Fantasy, not only are they going to match that deposit dollar for dollar up to 100, but you are going to get our 2022 fantasy football rankings and our 2022 fantasy football draft guide with a $10 deposit on Underdog. A 300-page draft guide with a $10 deposit. It will easily help you still, even if you've already had your draft. And of course, at the same time, it's best ball, so there's no time commitment at all during the season. You don't even submit your starting lineups. That's automatically done for you. But after we take CeeDee Lamb, because we're afraid that these drafters are going to be passing on running back, I mean, they look at us, they say, LOL, cute little story you had there, Mason. We are going to go ahead. We are going to take 5 running backs in a row. Deebo Samuel still falling at this point. But let me give a shout out to everybody out here. We have a ton of the regulars out here. We got guys like Mark, Mr. Steph, Winter Leeds, Caden, Luke, Jonathan Taylor's even out. Of course, thank you all so much. Teresa's out here. Y'all know I appreciate you all. And I'm going to be excited to get as many drafts going as we possibly can today. But do your research. Takes Kyle Pitts there, pick 20. Okay, now we have some craziness happening. Now we are seeing Kyle Pitts before market. Y'all know I love me some Kyle Pitts. Y'all know we've been talking about Kyle Pitts being a massive 3rd round value for God knows how long. To take him before Andrews, it does seem a little crazy. Kyle says, how much is this draft? This is a $250 draft. I know the title says mock draft. Come on. You think I'm going to come out here and do a mock draft with no money on the line? We're going to have some fun with it. Okay, so Deebo Samuel picked 23. I mean, I think if you start in this format, Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel through the first 2 rounds, you should be very excited about that. Very, very excited. Leonard Fournette goes 24. Interesting to see if this team decides to go Nick Chubb and go with the hyper fragile running back strategy from the beginning, or if they potentially just go with the best wide receiver available in a Tyreek Hill. Now, let's see this. Taking it down to the very last second where they go A.J. Brown over Tyreek Hill. Very interesting here. I have noticed more and more Tyreek Hill falling to the 3rd round in these drafts. Now, y'all know I'm a Jalen Waddle fan. I don't necessarily love me some Tyreek Hill, but I would say at this point, Tyreek Hill is going to be a value in this format in particular. GB says, why would you take CeeDee Lamb over Deebo Smith? Deebo Samuel, I apologize. A couple different things here with CeeDee Lamb. I understand he was the only wide receiver 16 last year on a points per game basis, and Deebo Samuel was the wide receiver 3 on a points per game basis. And Deebo Samuel was drafted in 2019, CeeDee Lamb drafted in 2020, so you'd assume that, hell, I mean, these guys are about the same age. Why aren't we just taking the player that's productive already? If we're looking at Deebo Samuel, I think that we have to seriously bake in some regression overall with the transition over from Jimmy Garoppolo to Trey Lance. Because with Trey Lance, I think that he is going to vulture some rushing touchdowns at the goal line. Not only is he going to be vulturing rushing touchdowns at the goal line, but on top of this, we should be expecting that, honestly, the target share may skew a little bit heavier in favor of George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk than what we had last year. Because if you're looking at the type of receivers that you have between Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk is a downfield threat for the 49ers, where Deebo Samuel over the past 3 years has had the lowest average depth to target at the wide receiver position. So I think that we go ahead and we assume that the quarterback that can scramble is not going to have to check the ball down as often as what you had with Jimmy Garoppolo. And he doesn't score 8 rushing touchdowns again this season. So we are going to go ahead. We are going to draft CeeDee Lamb over him. Now, Jalen Waddle off the board. Usually Jalen Waddle is the guy that we're going to be looking at with these 2 picks here. But now that Waddle's off, I think that this kind of shows why we decided to go CeeDee Lamb and Travis Kelce instead of grabbing Joe Mixon. Because I think at this point, guys, let me know if y'all think I'm wrong. I think you have to take James Conner and Travis Etienne here. Like, it is very, very, very tough. And to be completely honest with you, I don't think it's a super easy decision. The issue is I don't necessarily see any of these wide receivers in this range having wide receiver 2, 3, 4, 5 overall upside. I think we can get a lot of production from a James Conner who should see the expanded receiving down role with no Chase Edmonds this upcoming season in Arizona. And at the same time, we should assume that with Travis Etienne, he does step into like a DeAndre Swift type role there for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay. Jack asking if he should trade George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk for Kyle Pitts. If it is a shallow redraft format, I am fine with it. Shallow redraft format, I'm going to be fine. Now, Allen Robinson picked 39 here. Gabriel Davis, 40. Okay, Noah coming out in the live chat. Happy to see you out here, my friend. And Noah, I do not know if you've noticed. I think we're closing in on 90,000 subscribers. I think there's a chance that we end up actually doing that 24-hour live stream, which would be pretty damn cool. There's a chance that by the morning we're sitting at 81. Now we have Juju Smith-Schuster off the board. So we have a ton of wide receivers going here. Interesting to see Juju go this early. Very, very, very rarely are you ever seeing that happen. Personally, I wouldn't take him. I mean, I've been burned by Juju Smith-Schuster one too many times to end up just taking him here at pick 41. I understand that you want a wide receiver, but I believe Hollywood Brown is still available. I think at this point, you probably have to go ahead and you have to take Hollywood Brown in that offense over Juju Smith-Schuster and his 1.4 yards per route run he's had over the past 2 seasons. Okay, so Hollywood Brown does indeed go at pick 44 as well as Terry McLaurin here. And real quick, if y'all want to see another draft, please go down there, drop a like in the live stream. If this stream hits 350 likes, we'll be firing up a second draft. Okay, so we have Hollywood Brown pick 44, Terry McLaurin 43. This point, I don't necessarily know exactly what we're looking for at the end of the 5th round, the beginning of the 6th. This is what is so difficult with picking at 12, 11, 10, is I feel like that every single time we're on the clock, we are just looking at an extremely flat tier of options where if we're going to be looking at a lot of the wide receivers at the 5-6 turn, guys like Darnell Mooney, I mean, are we really that excited to go through and take a swing with someone like that where they shouldn't have access to an elite level ceiling because they're the offense that they're playing in? So now let's move this back around. Brandon says Pitts at pick 20. Yeah, I know. Obviously, it's very aggressive. Now I'll say, do your research. Maybe a better drafter than I am. Like, legitimately, every single time I am out here in a draft with him, it seems to be a high-stakes league. Every time I hop into the $250 draft lobby, they are out here. And I think that they wouldn't be spending this much money. They wouldn't have that red experience badge if they don't know what they're doing. So I can't say anything negative, especially when I've been talking about how I loved Kyle Pitts in the third round. But obviously, taking Pitts over a Mark Andrews is pretty damn aggressive. Okay. Now, Monroe St. Brown off the board 52. That is very interesting. Usually St. Brown's a player that falls to the very end of the 5th here, or even sometimes we get him in the 6th round. Now, I am not going to complain at all if we end up getting Deontay Johnson here. I need to apologize for complaining that we pulled pick 60. Is something happening with Deontay Johnson? Is this the George Pickens hype? I would be very surprised if CSU Ram ends up letting us take Deontay Johnson to pick 60. But dear God, Deontay Johnson off the board 57. If this is where Deontay Johnson goes now in drafts, it looks like Deontay Johnson is going to finish off the offseason as my most drafted wide receiver. Now, Vanessa coming out, thank you so much, says 10-team full PPR, Rodgers, Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams, CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Kyle Pitts, St. Brown, Kenyon Drake, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Tony Pollard, Rashad Penny, George Pickens. Let me know what you think, boss. Really like the team with the upside that you have down below. And in 1 second, I apologize to cut off here. I would never do this in a non-best ball format, but this is what I find myself doing 9 times out of 10 when we're on the clock here at the 5-6 turn. I think that if we take Kyler, if we take Jalen Hurts in a best ball format, especially a tournament-style draft, we are going to have access to somewhat of a unique build. And at the same time, both of these quarterbacks could finish. They have it in their range of outcomes to finish as the quarterback 1 overall. So let's take Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts. I have no idea what else we should do here. I hate pick 12 for this reason. I feel like we're stuck in no man's land. If we would have had Cam Akers making it to us, if we would have had Deontay Johnson making it to us, it would have been a super easy selection. We would have never even thought about it. But let's take the 2 elite level quarterbacks. Let's hope that we get some wide receiver value that we like later on. This is why we had to take CeeDee Lamb over Joe Mixon earlier on. But yeah, going back to what we were looking at this team in a 10-team format, I would love to try to go through and to package some of this depth with our quarterback to get that upgrade over in Aaron Rodgers. Like if we could even just get from like Aaron Rodgers to Dak Prescott to stack up with a CeeDee Lamb, I think that would make a lot of sense here. Like if we could go through and say pair up Aaron Rodgers and a player like Rashad Penny and get to Dak Prescott for a team that possibly wants a starting running back at the beginning portion of the season, I think that'd make a lot of sense. You also have Tony Pollard, so Pollard does have that expanded passing down role. All of a sudden, you could be looking at a potential double stack in Dallas. And I think in a 10-team format, Aaron Rodgers isn't someone that has a lot of upside, assuming that it's a 4-point passing touchdown league and not a 6-point passing touchdown league. Okay. But Lance off the board at pick 68. We want to see as many quarterbacks off as possible. Like, let's get Russell Wilson. Let's get Joe Burrow off the board before we're back on. Like, if Joe Burrow is still available to us when we are back on at pick 84, I can confidently say that we made a massive, massive mistake deciding to go ahead and to take Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts there at the turn. Now we have Joe Burrow off 71. Good for us. Good for us. David Montgomery falls to 70. Now, it's going to be very awkward. As in these high-stakes drafts, obviously, nobody here wants to take Josh Jacobs. And I am completely fine going through and taking Josh Jacobs when he falls to us in the 7th. So maybe we end up going with another running back that way. But, guys, I'm not going to lie to you. This is what makes pick 7 so difficult. So difficult. If we're going to be looking at the wide receivers that are usually available at the 7-8 turn, usually they're disgusting. Usually I want nothing to do with them. So let's see what ends up happening. Okay, so we have Allen Lazard here, 74. Now, swinging this back around, Dalton Schultz would be a player I'm completely fine taking. I'd be fine taking Jacobs. Obviously, we would love one of DeAndre Hopkins, Devonta Smith, but being 9 picks away, it's very hard seeing how one of these players makes it back to us. Like even a Hunter Renfrow going here. Usually that's the best wide receiver you're looking at when you're at the 8-9 turn, and 9 times out of 10, I'm going through and I'm passing on Hunter Renfrow in that range. So, like, yeah, we see him go. Maybe that's a good thing for us. Maybe that gives us the ability to find a different wide receiver at a value. But in reality, it just makes me even more worried about potentially not getting a wide receiver making it back. Devonta Smith off the board. Someone that I do take a lot where we get the chance. Kadarius Toney goes 78. DeAndre Hopkins. Yeah, so it looks like wide receiver's not going to be in our plans here. I hate to say it. I need a wide receiver desperately. At this point, we only have CeeDee Lamb. And keep in mind, you have to draft 3 wide receivers in this format. I'm sorry, you have to start 3 wide receivers. Dalton Schultz off the board, 81. I would have really liked to have Dalton Schultz make it back to us on a team where we decided to draft CeeDee Lamb. Oh my gosh, guys. What the hell? I'm not taking Stevenson. Let's sit here and think for a second. Do we just go kind of all in on the Kansas City Chiefs offense here? We're definitely taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire. The question is, do we decide to take a wide receiver in either Sky Moore or Chris Olave? I think that's probably the call, looking at the running backs versus receivers that are going to be available to us at the 9-10 turn as well. So I really like taking Clyde Edwards-Helaire here. And no, instead of taking Sky Moore, let's take Chris Olave. We can use the Michael Thomas hamstring injury as a tiebreaker. Usually I'm finding myself taking Sky Moore this range instead. It's just so difficult here to be taking really any of these wide receivers, if I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. So let's move this back around. Let me know, what would you have done differently if you were us? What would you have done differently? Let me show off the entire draft board if you are new here. And of course, if you are new to this live stream, you got to go down there and drop a like on the stream. Helps us out so damn much when you go and just simply hit that like button. Hit that like. If we hit 350 of them, we will go through. We will fire up another draft after this. Okay, so we have Ramondre Stevenson, Dameon Pierce, Dallas Goedert, all off the board. And, of course, it's going to be very difficult for us to take a tight end in this range whenever we already have Travis Kelce as well. So even if I like the value of a TJ Hawkinson here, we just simply can't take TJ Hawkinson. Okay. Let's go through. Andrew says, wouldn't have drafted 2 quarterbacks. Well, in a best ball format, what would you have done instead of taking Kyler and Hurts there? Maybe you make the argument we go Darnell Mooney and then we end up getting Dak Prescott instead at pick 85 to stack up with CeeDee Lamb. But in reality, I think that the ceiling that we have from a Kyler and Jalen Hurts pairing at the position is significantly ahead of what we would be looking at with the Dak Prescott. Randy says, easy, built around Courtland Sutton. My friend, Sutton went at 35. So if we were going to take Courtland Sutton, we would have had to take Courtland Sutton at 13. Are you advising that we draft Courtland Sutton at the 1-2 turn? Is that what you were telling me, my friend? Okay, so we have Devin Singletary off the board here, pick 97. Honestly, probably a pretty good thing to see all these running backs off. We kind of want to get some wide receiver value on the way back around. Now, let's swing this back. George Pickens off the board here, 98. I don't want to say it's bad. Like, if you're looking at what Vegas is making these lines as right now, George Pickens is one of the favorites for Offensive Rookie of the Year. So that is a very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. James Cook, pick 100. I mean, I think that a lot of people in this live chat would probably prefer having George Pickens over Treylon Burks at this point. It's just not something that I've seen in drafts. Do your research, takes Treylon Burks. Treylon Burks would have been a wide receiver that we would have been really excited about. Now, once we don't have access to a Treylon Burks, this draft's going to get a lot tougher. I mean, TJ Hawkinson off the board as well. TJ Hawkinson's usually someone that we're going to be looking at in this range if we can. Dawson Knox gone. Dawson Knox isn't someone that we wanted. Let's please see a Stafford. Let's see a Derek Carr pick. Let's get one of these guys off. Please, 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 please. Yeah, James says George Pickens over Treylon Burks. I understand a lot of people are going to prefer that. So y'all know one of the wide receivers that I do find myself drafting a considerable amount of is Tyler Boyd. I'm completely fine with Boyd in this range. If we don't get Tyler Boyd, it's going to be gross. I know probably everybody watching this wants us to go through and take Rondale Moore to get that correlation in. So we're going to take Tyler Boyd, and then I'm going to sit here and think about this for a second. Because to take Rondale Moore over a Kenneth Walker, over a Cordell Patterson, it would physically pain me. I understand we're getting that correlation in with Arizona, but at the same time, we have James Conner here. Maybe we can make that argument. We are betting on some of the rushing upside with the Kyler Murray. And then on top of that, if we're just going to be looking forward to the end of the draft, we could bring in someone like AJ Green as well. I don't see the elite level ceiling with the Rondale. I kind of want to bring in a running back at this point. Who's going to be available to us at the 10-11 turn? Yeah, I mean, we're not really going to be too excited about the running backs. Where I think there will be some wide receivers we would like. Let's put these guys in the queue because we can, yeah. Let's go ahead. Let's say Cordell Patterson. Obviously, I mean, at this point, we are desperate for a wide receiver. I know pretty much anybody that's smart tells you to go Rondale Moore at this point. Cordell Patterson should see some serious regression this upcoming season, but at the end of the day, there are so many touches available there in Atlanta. Even if you assume that he regresses overall from his running back 15 finish last season, he still has plenty of space to regress and still be a top 24 running back. Okay. So let's go through. I think we had a donation question. Of course, thank you so much. This came out from Nick. Long time no see, my friend. Long time member of the vlog. Says a redraft league with 2 keepers, half PPR. Options are Jefferson in the 2nd, Swift in the 3rd, Akers in the 15th. Picked off waivers is automatically round 15. 100% going to go through, keep Cam Akers out of one of these. And then looking at a Justin Jefferson versus a DeAndre Swift in the 2nd or 3rd round, I don't necessarily think that the 2nd or 3rd round keeper cost is going to be a deal breaker between these two guys. I mean, in reality, you're missing out on a significant option regardless of who you keep. So I would go ahead. I'll just take Jefferson if you think that he's going to be the best player available. Okay. So I'm not going to lie to you guys. Tyler Boyd at this point does seem like he's becoming one of my most drafted wide receivers. Like, let me pull this up on my phone to try to figure out how much Tyler Boyd I have. Let's see this. I just look at Tyler Boyd and look at a wide receiver that I think the range of outcomes has him as someone that his median projection, of course, is never popping off the page because he has to deal with both Jamar Chase as well as T. Higgins there. But because the targets are so concentrated, I think that you could see Tyler Boyd, literally, even if Chase and Higgins both stay healthy, easily return value on like the wide receiver 50 draft pick you're having to spend on him. And then, of course, if something were to change in the situation where you were to have an injury to either Chase or Higgins, I think that Tyler Boyd could be easily become a top 24 wide receiver in this offense. We've seen him be a top 24 wide receiver before with significantly worse quarterback play. Yeah, I have Tyler Boyd in. I guess I thought I had him in a lot more. I only have him in 11% of drafts. I need to get some more Tyler Boyd in my life. I only have him in 11%. Okay. So now Brandon says, when Hunter Renfrow is the league winner this year, thank me later. Oh, my friend, if like Hunter Renfrow is the perfect example. I think that Renfrow and Tyler Boyd are very comparable. I think that they're both playing in offenses that are going to be highly concentrated between the top three guys. In the case of Las Vegas, that's going to be between Davante Adams, Darren Waller, and Hunter Renfrow. In the case of Cincinnati, that's going to be between Higgins, Boyd, and Jamar Chase. They're both slot wide receivers, the third option in their respective passing offenses. But if I can get Tyler Boyd at pick 108 or Hunter Renfrow pick 75, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Tyler Boyd. Give me like the third option in Cincinnati when you have Joe Burrow versus the third option in Las Vegas. Okay. Noah coming out. Thank you, my friend. Says 6th pick in a half PPR 10-team league. Who are you going? 10-team shallow redraft format, half PPR format. You're going to have to go through. You're going to have to just take a running back there. Like, it sucks. I think you're not going to be looking at one of those top tier RBs. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor's not going to be on the board. Sometimes you see casual drafters get very scared and very nervous about going ahead and pulling the trigger on Christian McCaffrey. If you have CMC falling to a pick 6, it's an auto pick. If not, you're just going to take your favorite guy out of that tier 2 of running backs. But let's look. So Zach Ertz, no real report that we have here. There are a couple different wide receivers that I'd be fine with. We could end up going with the tight end as well, even if we don't get Zach Ertz. Nick coming out, thank you, my friend, says PPR Dynasty trade-off for my Jonathan Taylor for his Saquon Barkley, Cortland Sutton, and Jahan Dotson. Which side? Ooh, very, very interesting question here. Assuming that it's a deep dynasty league where we can assume that you could, at minimum, flip Cortland Sutton for a 2023 first, I think we take the package. I think we have to take the package just based on the trade value that you would have with it. Zach Ertz goes, that sucks for us. Of course, Zach Ertz would have been a player that we are really excited about drafting here. I think Mecole Hardman's going to be a no-brainer pick. We are, I guess, at this point going all in on the Kansas City Chiefs offense with Kelsey, Hardman, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Beyond this, like if we're looking at the other wide receivers available to us, like DJ Chark, in my opinion, is not someone that we should be taking here. The wide receivers that we could have later on at the 2-3 turn are going to be just as appealing, if not more appealing for me. So I think we're going to go with like a Mecole Hardman. And then I think we're going to quote unquote reach to get Pat Frymuth. Unless y'all have some seriously strong takes that you think we need to go Nyheim Hines here. You think that we need to go ahead and, oh dear God, I guess we're getting auto picked. We just need to go ahead and start drafting instead of just adding to our queue. So, no, I guess we're auto-picking a Frymuth who's in our queue here. I mean, round 12 is usually when I begin looking at drafting these tight ends. We already have 4 running backs that we significantly invested into with James Conner, Travis Etienne, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Cordell Patterson. I understand we already have Travis Kelce as well, but with Pat Frymuth here, I think that this is a tight end that can easily hit our flex spots in certain weeks. So we need one more running back with this build, and then we just need to hammer in wide receivers from here. Hammering in wide receiver. We had someone coming out in the chat saying that KJ Osborne would have been their choice. I'm not a big KJ Osborne guy, if I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I am going to be avoiding KJ Osborne if we have to draft him over Pat Frymuth. Like, in no world am I drafting Osborne over Frymuth. Okay. Anthony says Cortland Sutton is wide receiver 25. I'm a little bit more bullish on Sutton than you are, I guess, my friend. I mean, y'all know I'm not a big Cortland Sutton fan. I have always had Cortland Sutton as a top 24 wide receiver for this upcoming season. I had him right there at the bottom end of that top 24 if you were going to be looking pre. Tim Patrick injury. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. But post Tim Patrick injury, I think that we are going to go through. We are going to be pushing him up ever so slightly as the wide receiver 19. Okay. Now we have Trevor Lawrence off the board here, 138. Come on, get these quarterbacks off. For the love of God, take tight ends. Please take anybody. I repeat, anybody but receiver. Anybody but receiver. We have Isaiah Pacheco here. Tua Tagovailoa, pick 142. Jacoby Myers, 143. Okay. We're fine seeing these quarterbacks. We're fine seeing these tight ends. Jacoby Myers would have been a player I would have been very excited getting on the way back around if we could have had him at pick 156 and bring in those cheap targets. And we are about 70 likes in the live stream away from firing up another draft. So if y'all want to see another draft, please go down there, drop a like on the stream. Of course, it helps us out so much. Okay, now James Robinson off 144, Isaiah Pacheco 140. These are players that we could have taken if they would have made it back to us at the 13-14 turn, but in reality, not necessarily options we would have been that excited about. It is crazy to me that Alexander Mattison falls this far in drafts. Like, I understand the thought process that Alexander Madison's not going to give you any usable weeks outside of a Dalvin Cook injury, that if you're going to be looking at median projections, of course, it's very hard to project in Alexander Mattison to score more points than guys that can have that weekly role, like a Michael Carter, like a James Robinson. I mean, beyond that, an Isaiah Pacheco, Nyheim Hines. But at the same time, just the top 1 percentile outcome for Alexander Mattison is going to be significantly higher than what we have with those other players. So, like, if Alexander Mattison were to make it back to us, I'd be very excited about that. Gerald Everett off the board. Perfect. We like seeing Gesicki. We like seeing Everett off. At this point, there are a couple teams coming up that need some quarterbacks. Do your research only as Lance. They've loaded up on wide receiver up until this point. The team right after them has no quarterback to speak of. So, hopefully we get some QBs off. Hopefully we get a Jameis Winston, a Matt Ryan, gone. Do your research. They took Pittman. They go Tyler Algier here at 149. Not a player that I would have looked at. Alexander Mattison would have been someone that we would have taken as if he would have fallen, as we already said. There are a couple different wide receivers I like here. This is why we decided to pass on DJ Chark in favor of Pat Freiermuth earlier on, because I think the gap between like a Hunter Henry and a Pat Freiermuth is going to be larger than the gap that we were looking at with some of these wide receivers at this point. Christian Watson off 151. Y'all know Christian Watson is that wide receiver that we're trying to get everywhere we can. KJ Hamler, 152. Hamler would have been a wide receiver we would have been very excited about. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I need your help here. I need your help. Who are your 2 wide receivers you're taking? We're probably not even going to have the option to take all these guys, but out of these names, who are the 2 wide receivers you want? Golladay off the board. He's not an option for you anymore. Higbee off. Who are the 2 guys you want here? We have 1 vote for Jarvis Landry, Robinson Williams, Robinson, Jarvis, Robbie, Landry, Wan'Dale, Landry. Okay, it looks like the majority of people are wanting Jarvis Landry and Wan'Dale Robinson. I'm not going to lie to you. I actually like Jameson Williams here. We have a couple votes for Jameson Williams, not many. Wan'Dale off the board. So it looks like I would say we probably have more votes for Jameson Williams than Robbie Anderson. Everybody wants us to take Jarvis, so we'll go ahead. We'll take Jarvis Landry. We have Chris Olave with this team, so maybe this is the team where, trust me, I'd be losing money on the whole if this happens. But if Michael Thomas were to go down, maybe that's how we get that high ceiling here. And then between Jameson Williams and Robbie Anderson, I think that if this was a league where we didn't have the fantasy football playoffs, we easily go Robbie Anderson. But this is instead a league where 4 teams advance to that fantasy football playoff tournament, where we need to be truly optimizing for weeks 15, 16, 17 where we can. So yes, we're not going to have the beginning portion of the season from Jameson Williams. Yes, tore his ACL not long ago at all. Literally happened in 2022. But let's go ahead. Let's take him here. And let's hope that somehow, some way, we can sneak this team through the fantasy football regular season, be a top 4 team in our league, get to that playoff stretch, and then be in a good spot with Jameson Williams coming back on. Okay. So let's move this down. So Robbie Anderson, also, if you're looking at a raw targets perspective of what we had last year, I think that you could go through and make an argument that Robbie Anderson's a very strong value. Like if you were guaranteed to get 110 targets again from Robbie Anderson this upcoming season, he is the pick and it's a no-brainer. Like you take Robbie Anderson and you are laughing to the bank with that selection. But I think because you could potentially have Terrace Marshall coming on a little bit later, on top of that with a Robbie Anderson, you could have Christian McCaffrey skewing the target share of the wide receivers in Carolina. It's not as simple as just saying, okay, he had 110 targets last year. He's going to have 110 targets this year. It's not that simple. Okay. So we have Alec Pierce off the board, 165. Tyrion Davis-Price, 164. Okay, so do your research. I believe it's probably going to be done taking running back at some point. Isaiah Spiller finally gone, 166. Isaiah Spiller, obviously a running back, not getting great training camp reports. And then on top of that, dealing with the injury, I think that all of a sudden he should be someone that's plummeting in these drafts. Like it's well-deserved, the fall from grace that you've had with an Isaiah Spiller. Okay. So let's move this back around. Keel Herbert off the board. Not necessarily dying to grab any of those running backs in particular. We definitely still need another running back on this team. And look at the tight ends available. You have Hunter Henry, Robert Tonyan, both available at the very top of draft boards here. So, of course, selfishly, we are hoping that these tight ends go. We already have Kelsey and Freiermuth. We can't take another tight end. So, hopefully, they are off. And, okay, so we have the quarterback one production every single week. We have Kelsey, Freiermuth. We should be elite at tight end every single week. But outside of that, this team is weak. Like, we have some top-end running backs like a James Conner, Travis Etienne. We have CeeDee Lamb, a wide receiver one, but beyond that, just a bunch of freaking dart throws at the position. Pick 12 is legitimately just the worst. Pick 12 is legitimately just the freaking worst. Okay, so Goff off. So is this the result of the Jonnu Smith hype and why you have Hunter Henry falling, what at this point, almost 20 picks past his ADP? Is this the result of some Jonnu Smith hype here? Do your research only has one tight end. Their tight end is Kyle Pitts. They only have one quarterback as well. I believe that quarterback is going to be Trey Lance. They go Noah Fant here over Hunter Henry. Yeah, so Hunter Henry's plummeting in drafts right now. There are a decent amount of teams drafting before us that only have one tight end, so I'd imagine we get one of these guys off. Rockin' Steve says, Ayo, if I deposit $10 on Underdog, how do I get your draft guide? First off, thank you so much for supporting the channel, my friend. You have no idea how much that supports us. And with that $10 deposit, I'm sure that when you use promo code FLOCK, you saw that it was doubled in your account. That second, you have $20 in your account. But it's going to take a couple hours for your promo code FLOCK to get registered with the automated email system from Underdog to send you our draft guide. So wait 1 to 2 hours after you deposited $10 on Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, and then check your email, and you should have our draft guide as well as our rankings sitting there for you. And if you're having a hard time finding that, please just go ahead. Please just send me a personal email, fantasyflocknetwork@gmail.com, and I'll be happy to get that sorted out for you. Okay. So now we have Hayden Hurst off the board here, 176. Couple different wide receivers we'd like. What's the report on Green? Okay, we're fine with that. We're fine with that. Let's see. CSU Ram on the clock. I mean, Van Jefferson would be so good for our team here. Thank God we get Van Jefferson. Honestly, we're going to go ahead. We're just going to take the top two guys at ADP. I think we need a wide receiver, and we're desperate for it. One with Van Jefferson, I think, is the easy selection here. And then with J.D. McKissic, we are going to get a running back that can provide us week-to-week production in a best ball format. I think that's going to make a lot of sense. So, honestly, I think we got lucky with the two values that we ended up having fall to us. Okay. Mike says, I thought another puppy was supposed to draft today. I heard down the rumor mill. Based on people in the live chat and people randomly DMing me on Instagram that it was supposed to happen, I never heard anything from Underdog themselves. Let me go through. Let me check Underdog's Twitter to see if there's anything coming out about Puppy 4. I know that they tweeted out last week like Puppy 4 and like little eyeball emojis, but outside of that, I don't think there's been anything official with Puppy 4. And it looks like, I think we are only like 5 likes away from firing up another draft after this one. So if you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like on the live stream. Supports us so much, of course. So let's go through. Let me look up Underdog. Okay, I do not see anything about the puppy 4, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I do not see anything about the puppy 4. Hopefully it comes soon. Trust me, I'm really rooting for it. But I don't think I can confirm anything about that at this point. Okay. Corvette says, is Best Ball Mania full? I maxed out Best Ball Mania. I can't draft in Best Ball Mania anymore. It's 150 max entry. I wanted to max out Best Ball Mania as early as possible because I assumed that we would have like more injuries at this point. Like we have gotten very lucky with injuries across the board. I mean, think about where we stood at this point last year. At this point last year, I think we already had freaking J.K. Dobbins, who was a round 3 running back last year, out for the season. We had Travis Etienne out for the season. I mean, a running back that was just drafted round 1 of the NFL draft. And at the same time, we had freaking a round 1 running back in Cam Akers out for the season. Like, I think we got very, very unlucky last year. Very lucky this year. It's music coming out. It says Keeper League 10-team. Pick 2, Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, Justin Herbert, and A.J. Brown. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, my friend. And I'd say 10-team league, shallow format. You're taking the running backs, no question. Keep Dalvin Cook and Saquon Barkley. Not even going to be close for me, if I'm going to be completely honest with you. I think that those are just the 2 guys you have to take. Okay. So let's scroll this over. And what I'll do for everybody here is I'm going to go ahead. I am going to make sure we get a private draft going after this. Jerick McKinnon was someone that I was going to take there the 17-18 turn if we had the potential to. I don't even think we have to draft a running back at this point if we have the wide receiver value that we like making it to us. I think y'all know the wide receiver that I personally want, the wide receiver that I'm drafting over and over again. And if we're looking at our wide receiver room where we have CeeDee Lamb, Chris Olave, Tyler Boyd, McCole Hardman, Jarvis Landry, Jameson Williams, Van Jefferson, we probably need to take 2 wide receivers here. We probably need to double tap the position. Okay. DNB says, how do we join the private draft? So as long as you have an Underdog account, you should be good to go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a private draft, and then I'm going to send out a separate link in the live chat that just says like $3 draft here. And you're going to be able to click that link and you'll be directly in. But Sasquatch takes Zach Wilson, pick 200. Tannehill's still available here. All the teams before us only have 2 quarterbacks. I mean, you have Dak and Fields, Stafford and Mac Jones, Russell Wilson, Derek Carr. So honestly, if I were any of those teams, I would be willing to take a 3rd QB. Obviously, would help us. We can't take a 3rd quarterback, though, when we have the combo of Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts. Okay, so Hassan Haskins off the board. Curtis Samuel gone. We still have our wide receiver available to us if he falls. We're still going to be able to take David Bell here, ladies and gentlemen. Outside of David Bell, like if we're looking at wide receivers, like trust me, this team needs more receivers. But are you excited about any of these guys? Like spam the chat. Who would you rather have? Like Odell, Velus Jones Jr., Tyquan Thornton, Kendrick Bourne, or would you rather just see me take Marlon Mack or Darrell Williams? Spam the chat right now, please. David Bell's 100% someone I'm excited about taking here at the 17-18 turn every single time. But, okay, we have a lot of people saying Odell. We have a lot of people saying Odell. Yeah, guys, stop spamming David Bell. David Bell's someone we're taking no matter what. I'm trying to figure out the second guy here. Trying to figure out the second one. Okay, so we go David Bell. That's an auto pick. I guess we take Odell Beckham Jr. for y'all. We're going to go Odell as our 9th wide receiver. That team should honestly have a lot of wide receiver upside for weeks 15, 16, 17. But the issue is, can that team have enough firepower where we actually get to the fantasy football playoffs in general? Now, 4 teams advance out of the 12, so it's not like we have to be too concerned, but it is something I want to monitor. Okay, so let's go through. I'm just going to set up a $3 private draft. This is what we usually do. Like, we'll do those high stakes tournament drafts where we get the chance. And then whenever we do these private drafts, just so y'all can have some fun getting to some of these with us on the live stream, because I know obviously not everybody's wanting to join a $250 draft. It's going to be a $3 draft on Underdog. Okay, sent that link out in the live chat, and I need to run over and grab some water real quick if we're going to be able to live stream for like 3-4 hours tonight. So let's send that link out. I'm assuming that this is going to get filled very quickly. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Fills that second. And we're running with the 109. Okay, give me 1 second, guys. I am going to go ahead. I'm going to grab some water. Okay, we should be good to go. Apologize for the wait, everyone. So let's prepare. I think you have, yeah, this is starting in 1 second. Okay, we're good to go. And let me look at just the names in this draft. We have a lot of regulars out here, some people that have been a part of the vlog for quite some time. We have Derek, of course, only 2 picks away from us because they can never put him any further away. But at the 109, we are going to have an option probably to go like a Derrick Henry, a Dalvin Cook, a running back in that tier, and then be able to possibly grab our guy Mixon on the way back around in the second. Okay. So we have Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp off the board here, 3 and 4. Jamar Chase at 5. Let's move this over. Of course, if Diggs could make it to us, like I love Stephon Diggs in this range, specifically for this draft format in particular. But at the same time, I mean, we got to be realistic with ourselves. We know who we're drafting with. I think it's very unlikely we end up coming away with Stephon Diggs. We'll just take whatever running back falls between Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook. I mean, I think that all these running backs, including a Najee Harris to Joe Mixon, they're all in the same tier. But we know we're not going to get Derrick Henry. We're not going to get Dalvin Cook on the way back around in the second, where we would have that outside chance to get one of those running backs in either Najee Harris or Joe Mixon on the way back around at pick 16. I mean, I've seen it happen a ton. And then also same thing, a wide receiver. I'm not dying to take Davante Adams. I think that he's in the same tier as a CeeDee Lamb. So if we take Dalvin Cook here, there's an outside chance that we get CeeDee Lamb on the way back around in 16. In a vacuum, of course, we know Derek's in this draft, so Derek's probably going to go ahead and take the 2 wide receivers right away. Okay. TK Thang says, just signed up on Underdog and used promo code FLOG. Thank you so much, my friend. I hope you enjoy our draft guide. And more importantly, I hope you can have some fun getting one of these drafts with us tonight. I'm going to try to get as many drafts as we can possibly have tonight. And of course, if you have not done so already, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Go use promo code FLOG when you sign up. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You will get our 2022 fantasy football rankings. You will get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, literally with a $10 deposit, because I worked my ass off to get y'all that deal. And at the same time, you can have some fun. You can draft with us on the live stream every single night. We are out here drafting for 3-4 hours. Okay. So Derek decides to go Deebo Samuel. So we may end up getting our guy, Joe Mixon, on the way back around pick 16 here. Yeah, that's exactly what happens. We're going to start off this draft with Dalvin Cook and Joe Mixon. Honestly, I couldn't be more excited about this. I think that this is a very, very strong start through the first 2 rounds. And this is why, if you look, like, yeah, technically I have Joe Mixon ranked before Dalvin Cook, but if I'm going to be in a draft on Underdog where I kind of have a decent idea of how the draft board's going to fall, we kind of have to take Dalvin Cook there in the first to roll the dice to see if we're going to get Joe Mixon on the way back around later, which is, of course, exactly what happens at this point. Okay. Now let's smooth this over. We have Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, Aaron Jones all off. We have Augustus telling us to take Saquon Barkley over Joe Mixon. I understand the thought process behind it. I mean, with Saquon Barkley, I would say he's probably a more talented he's definitely a more talented running back than a Joe Mixon. He should have a larger role in the receiving game as well. My issue with that thought process and why I wouldn't go down that road myself is if we are looking at the difference between the Cincinnati Bengals and the New York Giants, would you be surprised if the Bengals have an extra 20 touchdowns over the Giants this upcoming season? Like, I think if we're looking at the touchdown upside of these two offenses, the Cincinnati Bengals could just run laps around the New York Giants. Maybe I'm with the casuals on this, but I think that there's an outside chance that you're looking at the Cincinnati Bengals as a top 5 offense in the NFL this year. Now, I don't even want to say an outside chance. There's an outside chance that they are the number 1 offense in the NFL this year. What we really need to see, and I've talked about this in pretty much every single video we've made regarding a Cincinnati Bengals player, we need to see the increased pace of play for the Cincinnati Bengals. If we're looking at what Zach Taylor did in this offense last season, very uninspiring with how little time was on the play clock every time the ball was snapped. Like, it was a very slow offense overall. They were very efficient, though. Now, I think that it makes a lot of sense on why they were such a slow-paced offense. It just simply comes down to the fact that, hell, Joe Burrow had the most sacks in the NFL last year, coming off a significant injury. If you're Zach Taylor, do you want to try to be the Dallas Cowboys? Do you want to try to be the Chargers? Do you want to be the Cardinals? Do you want to be the Chiefs? Do you want to try to run the most plays in the NFL? No, you want to try to protect Joe Burrow where you can. So I think if the improved offensive line allows this team to no longer have to be such a slow offense in general, I think we could have a very high ceiling. Okay, so we have Mike Williams off the board, 31. Let's swing this back around. So we've gone with 2 running backs here. I think y'all should know who I'm looking at. DJ Moore is going to be my preferred selection. If we don't, DJ Moore off the board. So we are going to go ahead. We're going to take Josh Allen. I think that you do see that significant tier drop off once DJ Moore's off the board. It is scary not having a wide receiver so far. But I mean, I think there's an outside chance we get Courtland Sutton, we get Jalen Waddle. And to be honest with you, even with this build, if James Conner were to fall in our laps, we'd probably pass on Conner. But Joey coming out, thank you, my friend, says, just sent my team on Discord, 12-team auction draft. Need help with trades. What should I look for? Okay, Joey. I will try to... Joey, my friend, it's going to be impossible for me to find your team on Discord. Please, 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 please. If you can type your team in the chat, like... Yeah, I just pulled up Discord. I don't even have a single DM. I'm so sorry. Of course, thank you so much for supporting the channel. It used to be very easy for me when we had like 70 people watching the live stream to go hunt down these teams and take 5 minutes to do it. I can't do it. I'm so sorry. I just pulled up Discord. I don't even have a DM for it. The Jacoby Show says, what are your thoughts on J.K. Dobbins now with the Gus Edwards news? Where is he ranking for you now? Love the stream. Thank you, my friend. We've been talking about, in my opinion, J.K. Dobbins being one of the strongest values in fantasy. We made that video calling him a league winner when he was going in the 6th round, and I thought I had the bold claim at the time that he was going to finish the offseason off with an ADP not in the 6th round, but in the 4th round. Let's see where he goes in this draft, but of course it's great news. You kind of saw it coming based on the reports you were getting out of Baltimore regarding Gus Edwards and his recovery process. I mean, we got the report about 10 days ago at this point that he was significantly behind J.K. Dobbins. Okay, so we have Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert off the board. Probably a pretty good thing for us. You know what? This is a $3 draft, ladies and gentlemen. It's a $3 draft. So what I want to try to do is I want to try some new things out. Okay, so even if I don't necessarily think that this is great from a median projection standpoint, I want to try some different tactics out. That way, next time we're in a $250 draft, we can maybe feel a little bit more comfortable if this is the value that ends up falling to us. So far in this draft, we have Josh Allen at quarterback. At running back, we have Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Travis Etienne. Of course, a very scary wide receiver room at this point. Okay. Now, Lamar Jackson goes pick 44. Really good for us in this draft in particular to see all these quarterbacks slide up. I mean, this is exactly what you're hoping for. If you take Josh Allen at pick 33, as you have, Mahomes, Herbert, and Lamar all as relatively early fourth-round picks. And real quick, please, if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like in the live stream. If we hit 700 likes in the stream, we should fire up another draft after this. If you are not subscribed to the channel, subscribe. We are actually looking like we have a chance to hit 90,000 subscribers before the season starts, which would lead to us doing a 24-hour live draft marathon. So make sure you go down there, subscribe to the channel. And if you're already subscribed and you want there to be a better chance we get recommended to a new subscriber so we could be one step closer to that 90,000 24-hour draft marathon, hit that like button. Let's run this up. Let's try to get 800 likes. There are almost 900 people out here. Steven coming out. Thank you, my friend. Says, hey, Flock, when do I start going wide receiver in a half point per carry? Oh, my gosh. My friend, it's a half point per carry league. I've played in a lot of point per carry formats. I mean, usually if you play in like a 0.25 points per carry league, it is so skewed that you're never going to be starting a wide receiver in the flex. You're just slamming in running back after running back after running back after running back. Like, let's go through and let's look at two hypothetical stat lines. Let's look at a low-end wide receiver one. Let's look at Tyreek Hill, right? Tyreek Hill comes out. He has himself a great day. Tyreek Hill has 10 targets, 8 receptions, and 90 receiving yards. Great day for Tyreek Hill, right? He's walking away with 17 points. And then let's look at a running back that's going to pick 50, going here, what? Simple math, 37 picks behind Tyreek. Cam Akers comes out. Cam Akers has, say, 18 carries, 50 rushing yards. I mean, not a great day at all. Pretty bad day. 18 carries, 50 rushing yards. And then he gets 3 receptions for 20 receiving yards. All of a sudden, he's coming away with 19 points. 19 points if it's a half point per carry with a horrible day. If it is going to be a half point per carry league where you have 3 flex spots, you're able to start 5 running backs every single week. You want to be starting running back, 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 running back. You want to take running backs until you throw up. And of course, if you get the chance to take a Lamar Jackson, if you get the chance to take a Jalen Hurts, take a Trey Lance, a quarterback that's going to rack up carries as well, you better take advantage of it. Here, okay, so I hate making this pick on the live stream because this is something I would never do in a regular fantasy football league. We are going to take Amon-Ra St. Brown over Chris Godwin. If you look at my rankings, this is how it should be. Chris Godwin is ranked significantly before Amon-Ra St. Brown. Significantly before Amon-Ra St. Brown. But those are going to be rankings for leagues that have the fantasy football playoffs. I think pretty much everybody should be drafting in a draft that has the fantasy football playoffs. But these private drafts that we are setting up are very unique in that these private drafts in particular do not have the fantasy football playoffs. It's going to be cumulative scoring weeks 1 through 17. So whereas in a regular league, I would take the elite level ceiling that we would have with potentially going to Chris Godwin, who could be just absolutely dominant weeks 15, 16, 17. Here, let's go Amon-Ra St. Brown, who we just know is going to be good to go week 1, and you should have no Jameson Williams at the beginning of the season for Detroit. And ladies and gentlemen, I actually kind of forgot that I even entered into this, but I wanted to see how, okay, this is maybe my bad here. About 10 minutes ago, I wanted to see how close the $250 draft room was to filling. We entered meaning to leave right away, and I did not remember to leave right away. So, bad news for me. I just accidentally spent $250. Maybe we don't get to do a high-stakes draft on tomorrow night's live stream. Good news for you, though. You get to see a $250 draft right now. Let's go through. Let's switch this over. Let's enter in this big dog, and we are also picking at 9 in this one. We are picking at 9 here. So very similar to what we were just at. I mean, in that last draft. Hell, we just practiced this. We just practiced this in that $3 league. We just practiced going Allen in the 3rd. On top of this, if you were looking at what we did with the running backs of the first 2, we went Dalvin and then followed up in the second round. We followed it up with a Joe Mixon. Now, that's not guaranteed to happen for us. And by the way, I do want to be on the record. Y'all know I've said that you cannot take Austin Eckler over those top tier wide receivers on underdog up until this point because of the underdog format where you have to start 3 of these guys. Now with the injury that we have to Isaiah Spiller, I think that we have to go through. I think you can push Austin Eckler up. I mean, if you want to take Eckler above Jamar Chase now, I do see merits for it. If Isaiah Spiller is not going to be good to start the season, I mean, reports coming out of training camp before the injury even occurred, Isaiah Spiller wasn't looking hot. So I think I understand a lot more teams that want to go ahead and want to take Isaiah Spiller now at the very top end. But yeah, we're going to go with exactly what we did in the last one. We're going to start this off with Dalvin Cook. Started off with Dalvin Cook, and we're going to hope that we get Joe Mixon on the way back around like we did in the second. I mean, in that other draft. Let's see. Let's hopefully get Joe Mixon at 16. Give us Mixon here. Give us Joe Mixon. I need to be looking at my phone as well because we need to make sure we're continuing to monitor that other draft. I don't want to just punt that other draft off now. Najee Harris, Davante Adams off the board with these 2 picks here. Too much to talk about at this point. Bamba goes Mixon at 12. So sadly, we are not going to get Joe Mixon. I guess we're rooting that we get a Travis Kelce, that we're getting a CeeDee Lamb. I know a lot of people would want us to go with a Saquon Barkley here, but to be completely honest, I would much prefer the elite level tight end. I'd prefer the elite level wide receiver now that we have Joe Mixon off the board. Okay, Lamb gone. Oh, Lamb's gone. Let's see. If we end up having Saquon Barkley and Travis Kelce selected with these next 2 picks, I will go ahead and I'll probably end up pulling the trigger on Deebo Samuel. Barkley goes 14. Kelce gone. Do we take Deebo here? I think it is somewhat of a unique combo. Sit here and think about this for a second. No, let's take DeAndre Swift. We're going to go ahead. We are going to take Swift. Let's not overthink it. I'm expecting serious regression in San Francisco right now. If we're looking at the transition over to Trey Lance, you all know I love Trey Lance from a fantasy football perspective. I've been screaming into a microphone about Trey Lance for years now, how when Lance does start, he's going to be an elite level option in fantasy. But at the same time, I don't think that Lance is going to be great for Deebo Samuel. I think that we're not going to see him be able to repeat 8 rushing touchdowns. I think the low average depth of target wide receiver is going to be negatively impacted based on the rushing upside. So let's go ahead and let's take Swift instead. And you know what I need to start doing a better job of? I never do this, but I need to let people know when we are live. Let me. Okay. Can everybody spam the chat right now and say, come to the live stream? Let me figure out how to put up an Instagram story real quick. I have someone posting Instagram reels for us. So we should have some people following us on Instagram at this point. Create story. Okay, I got it. Everybody spam in the chat. Come to the live stream. Okay. So Deebo Samuel finally off the board here, pick 20. Okay, let's get this going. If you are not in the live stream right now, what are you doing? $250 draft on the line. Okay. Let's try to save this so I can post this on multiple things. Save? Oh, God dang, I'm getting smart on Instagram here. Okay, so we have Mike Evans going to 23. I mean, with Mike Evans, we have seen him fall to the 3rd round in a lot of these drafts. Like Derek in the other $250 draft we had on the live stream ended up getting Mike Evans in the 3rd. Mike Evans in the freaking 3rd round, which is just crazy to think about. Crazy to think about. Okay. Let's see if I can post this on story. Okay, perfect. AJ Brown, Nick Chubb, and nothing too outlandish to talk about at this point. Okay, your story. DJ Moore, pick 27. With DJ Moore, he would have been a wide receiver we were looking at getting a pick 33. Y'all know I've loved Kyle Pitts in the third round for a long time now. However, based on the preseason game he had, based on a lot of hype that Kyle Pitts has been seeing as of late, I mean, my hopes weren't up. I wasn't expecting to get Kyle Pitts, especially in a high-stakes draft. I think these high-stakes drafters are a little bit more excited about Kyle Pitts than casual drafters are. Okay. How do we do it on TikTok? We were able to do this the other day on TikTok. We literally just posted a story on TikTok the other day. Okay, perfect. Post the story. Josh Allen off. It would have been fun for us to go through and have that same start we did in the other one. T. Higgins lasted until 32. Hell, we're going to get Keenan Allen here as our wide receiver 1. Honestly, based on the Keenan Allen value that we're getting here in the third round, I'm honestly very excited about our decision to pass on Deebo Samuel in the second for DeAndre Swift. Joey coming out says, I traded Joe Mixon, Kyler Murray, George Kittle for Stephon Diggs, Lamar Jackson, and David Montgomery. What are your thoughts? Okay, so if we're looking at this in a shallow redraft format, I think Mixon, Diggs are going to be in the same tier. You're getting the upgrade from Kyler to Lamar, Kittle to Montgomery. Honestly, my man, if it's a deeper format where maybe you can start like 3 wide receivers and two flexes, I like it. But assuming it's a shallow redraft league, I'm not that big of a fan, if I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. But we have Sutton off the board, 35. We had some people in the chat telling us to go Courtland Sutton here. I'm sorry. I can't go Courtland Sutton over Keenan Allen. I'm not going Courtland Sutton over a wide receiver that's just posted low-end wide receiver 1 season after wide receiver 1 season after wide receiver 1 season with 10 targets pretty much for the past 5 years on a per-game basis in Los Angeles with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm not taking a 27-year-old wide receiver who's never posted a top 24 finish on a per-game basis over that guy. So we have Gabriel Davis off the board here, pick 37. Jalen Waddle as well. Waddle would have been someone I would have been very excited about getting on the way back around. Y'all know I am a big Jalen Waddle guy. Terry McLaurin off at 38. Ezekiel Elliott gone as well. Okay, Travis Etienne's falling in every single draft. Do we just fall on Travis Etienne here? Do we just jump on the grid? I don't know. Let's go ahead. Let's do it. I think because we are not at pick 12 like we were in that first $250 draft, there's a better shot that we get a wide receiver that we like making it back to us in the 5th round than there was in that other one. I think that there is the outside chance that we're able to take a respectable wide receiver at pick 57. So let's go ahead. Let's take Travis Etienne. A lot of these wide receivers are not too appealing for me in this range. If we were to go with the wide receiver, we would have gone with Hollywood Brown. So we could have taken, okay, really need to point this out. Andrews Waller on the same build. That team so far, pick 7, has a total of 0 wide receivers through the first 4 rounds. They go ahead, they grab 2 elite level tight ends on the same roster. Very interesting, very interesting. Jerry Jeudy, 43. So honestly, if we have the chance to take Kittle at 57, I mean, he's an auto pick almost regardless of the draft context, but especially in this league where we see that team decide to take 2 elite level tight ends. Outside of that, this probably makes me a little more excited to go with like a TJ Hawkinson at pick 88. Just if we expect that some of these tight ends later on in the draft are going to slide up boards ever so slightly. Justin Herbert off at 44. Hollywood Brown, 45. Yeah, Hollywood would have been the wide receiver we probably would have taken. Zio says, is he doing any private drafts right now? So we did start a private draft earlier in the live stream. We are going to fire up another private draft if the live stream hits 700 likes. So if you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like on the stream. Of course, it helps us out so damn much. Now we have Deontay Johnson off the board, pick 46. So what other running backs are available? I mean, Ezekiel Elliott's still available. So if a team here at pick 1 or 2 wanted to go through and take Ezekiel Elliott, it probably would help us. Like, we don't want running backs falling whenever we have this start of guys with Dalvin, Swift, and Travis Etienne. The chef coming out, thank you, my friend, says Pittman, DJ Moore, Brandon Cooks, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, fade 1. If we're having to fade one of these guys, probably going to go through fade Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, I love the talent. The issue is you're playing in a Detroit offense that has Hawkinson, Swift, Jameson Williams, and DJ Chark with Jared Goff at quarterback. So, like, I love the talent, but I think if we had to fade one of those guys, we are going to go ahead. We are going to probably just fade Amon-Ra St. Brown. Okay, so Lamar Jackson off the board. Lamar would have been someone we were excited about getting. I mean, we're excited about Mahomes at pick 57. Mahomes doesn't fall to the late 5th as often as he did like a month ago. Like, there was a couple week stretch where you were consistently getting like Patrick Mahomes at pick 57. And at that point, he did become my most drafted player in fantasy because I was just auto drafting him in the middle of the 5th and pretty much every single chance that I had. Like, I would see Patrick Mahomes. Didn't matter what I did before that. I would take Patrick Mahomes. Now it's a little more difficult because he does usually go at the 4 or 5 turns, so you're not able to get him at pick 57 as you once could. But Ezekiel Elliott still available. We are in the 5th round. When is the last time you saw Zeke fall this far? Genuine question. No, never mind. I'm an idiot. Where the hell did Zeke go? Oh, he went at 39. Oh, I am so dumb, ladies and gentlemen. You still have a very strong running back value with Breece Hall, but never mind. No, Ezekiel Elliott was not off the board. Oh my gosh, I'm stupid. Okay. Tyler coming out. Thank you, my man. Says, had to brag about Joe Mixon falling to me at pick 18 in my casual draft. Thanks to your rankings and videos. Absolutely smashed my draft. Super happy to hear that, my friend. I'm sure that if you're drafting against people who are letting Joe Mixon fall to 18, you didn't need my rankings. I'm sure you were going to smash them regardless, but super happy to hear that. Thank you, my friend. Okay, so now we have Chris Godwin, 52, George Kittle, 53. Like we said, we were definitely going to be looking at Kittle if we had the chance. If we were to take one of these running backs in either Breece Hall or Cam Akers, we would then be done drafting running back. We'd be done at the position. We'd be going with a hyper-fragile build. Do we have any more reports about Michael Thomas and the hamstring? Like I said, I don't think it's something we need to be overreacting to. I think a lot of people are going to be very worried just because the name Michael Thomas is obviously what we've seen over the past 2 years. But Thomas did not practice on Sunday because of a hamstring injury per Coach Allen. Initially, it was believed to be a rest day or veteran day off for Thomas, but he's actually dealing with an ailment. It remains to be seen, blah, blah, blah. Let's sit here and think about this. So if we're looking at Akers and Dobbins, I love both these running backs. I love these running backs. I love these running backs. Am I crazy to go, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? Guys, I know. There's no planet where you should have to draft DK Metcalf before J.K. Dobbins. But looking at this draft room in particular, look at what you had here. I mean, you had Cam Akers falling to pick 59. You have J.K. Dobbins falling this far to begin with. We have 3 running backs. We only had 1 wide receiver. You have to start 3 wide receivers per week. Maybe I'm getting too scared because it's a $250 draft. I don't know. But there's an outside chance we would have Cam Akers or J.K. Dobbins fall to us in the 6th round. We are 4 picks away from making that happen. I think that the chance that we had DK Metcalf falling that far was 0%. So Dobbins, please, we're 1 pick away, ladies and gentlemen. Give him to us. Oh my God, give him to us, please, for the love of God, Come on, money train. Send some of that money over here. Come on, you just took Darnell Mooney over Dobbins. Take Elijah Moore over him. I don't want to talk. I don't want to. We were 1 pick away. 1 pick away from making it work. Oh my gosh, guys. That could have been so exciting. But I hope y'all saw why we decided to take DK Metcalf there. Just because this draft room, just because you have to start 3 wide receivers, and these wide receivers are going to drastically slide up. So I thought we could get greedy. I thought we could pass on DK Metcalf, have one of Cam Akers or J.K. Dobbins making it back to us. It almost worked. It legitimately almost worked. I even love David Montgomery in round 6. Like, the running back value here is crazy. The reason we go Elijah Moore over David Montgomery, very similar to our DK Metcalf selection, is just because the format, just because these high-stakes drafters are crazy with the wide receiver value. Like, I mean, we pass on Montgomery, who in my opinion probably is the best player on the board. And at the same time, we're sitting in a situation where, do we regret it? Not necessarily if we're looking at freaking Adam Thielen, Alan Lazard, and Brandon Ayuk going directly after. So trust me, I know in hindsight, of course, it's easy to say, oh, we should have gone Akers, we should have gone Dobbins over DK Metcalf. But if we're looking at just the context of this draft room and how we almost had one of those guys making to us at 64 regardless, I think we have to roll those dice to see if it's going to happen. And what you should do if you want to come out here and if you want to draft with us, we do these drafts every single night on the live stream. These are best ball drafts, so it literally is no time commitment at all during the season for you. Like, your best starting lineups automatically submitted. There's no waiver wire that allows us to do so many of these drafts. Like, I'm doing over 600 of these drafts this offseason. So if you want to get in some extra drafts this upcoming year to just have some fun, to have some leagues that you don't have to actually spend time with during the year, but you can go through and you can track them, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. And when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy, use promo code FLOCK, because when you make a $10 deposit on Underdog with promo code FLOCK, they're going to match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. And you are going to get our 2022 fantasy football rankings. You are going to get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide with legitimately just a $10 deposit. So please, please, please make sure you take advantage of that. And we do these live streams every single night. There's nothing more fun than drafting here. You have Chase Edmonds off the board, 73. So Edmonds skyrocketing up draft boards at this point. Now, usually a 7th round running back value that we're looking at is going to be Josh Jacobs. Sadly, we're not going to get the chance to take Jacobs here. It is what it is. If we're looking at quarterbacks that can make sense with his builds, and in reality, we don't have many stacking options right now. Like, I'm not too excited about taking Cousins with Dalvin. I mean, Jared Goff is like a 17th round pick. Lawrence, I don't even like the price point of. Zach Wilson's like a 18th round pick at this point. I'm never taking Geno Smith in Seattle. So to be honest with you, I have no idea what we're doing at quarterback with this team. No idea. No idea. Hopkins off the board at pick 77. I mean, here with Hopkins, he is a wide receiver that I really like for the format if we're trying to optimize for weeks 15, 16, 17. Burrow would have been someone that we would have taken if he would have fallen, just because I would have no idea what else we could do at quarterback if we were trying to find a very high ceiling. Now, No Limit Celtic on the clock. They have Allen, Henry, Michael Thomas, Alan Lazard, Mark Andrews, Darren Waller. They go Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So I guess we're locked into probably a wide receiver with this pick. I can win on the clock. They have Kamara, Breece Hall at running back. They got crazy value with Breece Hall. It took Breece Hall big 56. They go Drake London. So y'all know I'm not the biggest Dalton Schultz fan in the world. Like 9 times out of 10, I'm not excited about drafting Dalton Schultz. I've always admitted he is in a fantastic situation, but do y'all remember the point of the draft season where Dalton Schultz was going at the 5-6 turn? I do remember those days. And here, why I like taking Dalton Schultz is A, he falls significantly behind his ADP. B, you're looking at him in a draft where I think tight ends are going to slide up across the board, because remember, you had that one team taking both Mark Andrews and Darren Waller there in the 2nd and 4th round. And then also this Dalton Schultz selection is going to give us the ability to go through and to take Dak Prescott at pick 88. So I think now we have access to that stack that we could find a quarterback with a real ceiling. I don't want to lock ourselves into Dak if we really like another value that we could potentially have, but definitely on the radar for us here. Let's move this over. Yeah, Brady off. So let's go through. Let's take Dak Prescott as our quarterback. I mean, with Dak Prescott, I do think that he has access to a very high ceiling. I mean, we just saw the Dallas Cowboys be the number one team in the NFL in overall points scored. Obviously, this is going to be a team that looks to push the pace of play. This is going to be a team that looks to have a very high passing rate over expectation. I will say I am not just all in on Dak Prescott being like some absurd value here because, of course, you have to consider how his situation has changed. And it doesn't look like a great spot to be in currently. If you're looking at the Dallas Cowboys where they're missing out on Amari Cooper, they're losing Michael Gallup to injury for the beginning portion of the season. Cedric Wilson's in Miami. And on top of this, I mean, James Washington, like the last guy you bring in to try to give you anything, is not looking like he's going to give you something. So across the board, I think that you do need to be worried about the situation in Dallas. But I think our selections here with Dalton Schultz and Dak Prescott do make a lot of sense. Okay. So now let's go through and figure out what we are going to try to do after this one. We have Sky Moore making it to pick 93. I honestly like this team, guys. Like I said, I mean, I think that we got so close for this being a super team if we would have had J.K. Dobbins falling one more pick to us, or if we would have had Breece Hall falling one more pick to us. If we wouldn't have been sniped there in rounds 5 and 6, this would have been a crazy, crazy, crazy build. But still, even though we got sniped with those two selections, I think we were sitting pretty. And if you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like in the live stream. If y'all want to see me literally lose my mind in a 24-hour live stream draft marathon, subscribe to the channel. If we hit 90,000 subscribers, we will go through. We'll kick off that 24-hour draft marathon. And I'm assuming that 9 out of 10 of y'all here, or maybe even 99 out of 100 of y'all here, are already subscribed. So just make sure you hit that like button so you can A, see another draft for this one. If we hit 700 likes, we are going to fire up another draft. And B, so we can possibly get recommended to someone who's not currently subscribed so we can get one step closer to 90,000. Now we have TJ Hawkinson making it to pick 96. Like, personally, love the Hawkinson pick. Like, I take TJ Hawkinson easily over Dawson Knox. I have no idea what you're doing taking Dawson Knox over Hawkinson. Same draft class. Dawson Knox was a tight end that was a little bit of a confusing prospect because he had no collegiate production, but that was because he played in the same offense as DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, and Elijah Moore. But hell, TJ Hawkinson wasn't a confusing prospect. TJ Hawkinson was an elite prospect. TJ Hawkinson was an elite level athlete, a top 10 pick at the position. Okay, so we have Derek Carr, Miles Sanders, Matthew Stafford off the board. Honestly, like, I'm fine with our last two picks of this draft being like Jared Goff and Zach Wilson. Like, I'm not going to be stressing about that at all. Like, if we have another quarterback value falling to us, we'll go ahead and we'll take said quarterback value. But I don't think we need to panic at any point. Okay. So let's see. I know we have someone in the chat telling us that we need to go Jalen Tolbert here at the 9-10 turn. I know a lot of smart people would go ahead. They would take Jalen Tolbert at this point to get that pair up with Dak Prescott. In reality, I hate the value with Jalen Tolbert here. I'm not doing it. I understand we are already betting on this Dallas Cowboys offense. We want to go through. We want to correlate that bet with some of the Dallas Cowboys pass catchers. But in reality, there comes to a point where I have to draw a line in the sand and I have to say, this draft price of Jalen Tolbert is freaking disgusting. I want nothing to do with it. Okay, what's the report that you have with Treylon Burks? Back in action? Okay, good. Good. Happy to see it. Football is going to be more fun with Treylon Burks this year, especially when he's on our team here. Pick 105. Easy selection for with Treylon Burks, in my opinion. Okay. And let me know, do y'all think we went too far passing on Antonio Gibson? Do you think Antonio Gibson's a player that we have to take a pick 105 here? I know probably a lot of people say so. It's difficult for me to do that. I mean, obviously, he's in that touch squeeze. We've been talking about the shaky floor for a very long time, and it looks like it's looking like a real concern. So we have multiple votes for no Antonio Gibson at pick. What about pick 112? What about pick 112? Like, obviously, I passed on him in favor of Treylon Burks here. Like, But if we get him at pick 112, if we get him in the 10th round, do we have to take him? Do we have to? Or would y'all rather see Tyler Boyd, rather see George Pickens, rather see Cordell Patterson, Kenneth Walker? Okay. Everybody in the chat's consensus. They don't want to see us take him. Okay. I'll listen to y'all. We won't take Antonio Gibson at 112. We'll be looking at one of these other options. George Pickens off the board, 109. Garrett Wilson, 110. Just go ahead and take a player that we can't stop drafting. I just freaking take Tyler Boyd here. Russell Gage is gone. So once you have Garrett Wilson, Russell Gage gone, I think that this room is going to be pushing up these wide receivers. So let's go ahead. Let's take our guy, Tyler Boyd. I get it. I know a lot of people don't like it. It is what it is. We're drafting him here after wide receiver 50. If you look at his production on a per game basis last season, he finished well ahead of that. Not only did he finish ahead of that last year, but like I've said so many times before, I do think that you have the upside for an increased ceiling overall from the Cincinnati Bengals offense. And we have the contingency value that if something were to occur, if an injury were to occur to either Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, all of a sudden you are looking at Tyler Boyd with an upside, in my opinion, that clearly has him as a top 24 wide receiver. But Antonio Gibson's still falling here. This is a $250 draft, ladies and gentlemen. How far do you think Antonio Gibson falls? How far do you think he's falling? Gibson goes 116. Okay, this is a team that looks like they've loaded up on a lot of running backs. Let's see how many running backs did they have at this point. They went Leonard Fournette, pick 29. Love that Leonard Fournette value. I mean, this team, honestly, in my opinion, through the first 7 rounds was probably my favorite team in the draft. Like having at wide receiver Justin Jefferson, Deebo Samuel, DeAndre Hopkins. I don't really get the Justin Herbert pick, I guess, if you don't have Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. Like, I don't really understand taking Herbert there. Like, if he falls to in the 5th, sure, but why are we taking him over Hollywood? Like, if that team at pick 5 would have decided to, instead of going Herbert, taking Hollywood Brown, oh, I would have been so excited about that team. So excited. Okay, so let's move this down. Okay, so sorry, Jack. I did not mean to miss your question. Okay, actually, I think Jack is incorrect here. Let me go through and review this, but. Yeah, I do not see one, my friend. I do not see one. Please, just let me know whatever your question was. But I do not see a previous message. Okay. So let's move this down. Cole Kmet, 123. JB says, is Dameon Pierce going round 8 now? Yeah, this is where Dameon Pierce goes. I'm not drafting Dameon Pierce here. To be completely honest with you, I'm not drafting him here. Like, in reality, sure. What if he is the starting running back for the Houston Texans? Oh, yeah, the starting running back for the Houston Texans? I was a day 3 NFL draft pick. I was not a great athlete. Like, realistically speaking, what is the true upside that you have here? Okay, so Jalen Tolbert off. Jalen Tolbert actually goes behind Michael Gallup, finally, as it should be. Like, craziest thing in the world that hasn't been the case the entire offseason. I'm sorry, it was for a very long time until like the past month. DJ Chark off 126. I think we made the right call going wide receiver in the last round if you're looking at the running backs that are falling to this point. Honestly, if y'all look at this draft board right now, I think that we are kind of incentivized to just hit another wide receiver here and be able to get a running back on the way back around. I like McCole Hardman here. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take McCole Hardman. McCole Hardman used to go at the end of the 10th, at the beginning of the 11th, before the groin injury. Then he had the groin injury, got carted off. Everybody was very scared about McCole Hardman for a day where McCole Hardman didn't get drafted at all. That actually dramatically skewed his overall ADP in these contests. where I think now we are getting him at a respectable value in a best ball format where we know these wide receivers are going to slide up draft boards. And if we look at the teams after us, Money Train, the team that decided to freaking snipe us on J.K. Dobbins, they already have 4 running backs. They took 4 running backs relatively early, so I don't think we're going to see them go with another RB. I think we get some wide receivers off the board here at the turn, so let's just take one of the last guys in this tier, expecting that we can just easily get someone else. Okay, so let's move this down. Isaiah McKenzie off the board at 131. Albert O. Okay, so if we're at this point, slide it back around. Do y'all want, no, I was going to say, do y'all want Brian Robinson here? I really like Alexander Mattison. I mean, this is kind of why we decided to go through, take the wide receiver in the last round so we could get Alexander Mattison in the next one. I understand from a median projection standpoint with an Alexander Mattison, obviously, he is not going to project as highly as some of the other running backs in this range that could have a week-to-week role. At the same time, we have Dalvin Cook, so I know some people may think that we are taking this so we can have a handcuff to Dalvin. In reality, no. What I will say is I think in a tournament-style contest, you actually have a unique structure where we could potentially sneak a Dalvin Cook team through based on how the season plays out. I don't want to go into the small details of it. I've done it time and time again on the live stream. So let's take Alexander Mattison. I'm not taking it because I have Dalvin Cook. I'm taking him because I think he's the best value on the board. Okay. So Jack coming out. Thank you, my friend. Like I said, I'm so sorry if I missed your first question. Says, hey, 12 team half PPR, pick 10. Who should I take and what is best strategy? Double running back receiver, or I would say if you're going to be in a shallow redraft format, based on what we have seen with what kind of wide receiver value you're able to find later on in those drafts, I personally would just be hammering in back-to-back running backs, especially in casual drafts. It looks like you can relatively easily get Saquon Barkley almost guaranteed in the second round. So like if you could go through and say get a Joe Mixon, Saquon Barkley start at the 1-2 turn there, I'm going to be fine with that. Like I think you go through and pull up like our running back tier list video. I don't know if you signed up for Underdog and actually have our draft guide, have all of our rankings, but go look at those tier 2 of running backs. If you can come away with 2 of those guys at the turn, or if this is a league where you only have 1 flex, I would even love coming away with 1 of those running backs and then a Travis Kelce as well. So it's going to be very different than the deep drafts we're used to, where in the deep drafts we're used to, you kind of want to hammer in wide receivers early. In those shallow casual drafts, there's a reason running backs get pushed up. They usually are optimal. Jack coming out. Thank you again, my friend. Says, hi, my wide receivers are Kupp, Evans, and Mike Williams. Should I trade Evans and Ramondre Stevenson for Saquon Barkley in a PPR format? Yes, going right back to what we were discussing. In a shallow format, 100%. Just go get Saquon Barkley. With Mike Evans, he could easily start off the year extremely hot, like white hot start for Mike Evans. If we're looking at the fact that maybe Chris Godwin starts a little slow, but still, come on. You're getting Saquon Barkley here. Okay, so we have Khalil Herbert off the board, 146. And real quick, guys, if you have not done so already, please go down there, drop a like in the live stream. It would be so cool if we hit 90,000 subs. We can do some massive event and get that 24-hour live draft going. Now, KJ Hamler off the board. Usually I do really like the wide receivers in this range, and that's why we decided to go ahead and why we decided to pass on wide receiver in favor of Alexander Mattison in the last round. We do need to ask ourselves, at what point would Isaiah Spiller be a viable selection? Of course, Isaiah Spiller's not nearly as exciting as he once was. If you were to take Spiller, the reasoning behind it is because, hell, if he earns that number 2 job in Los Angeles, he could be getting touches on a week-to-week basis, and he could have upside for more if Austin Eckler were to go down. But it looks less and less likely that he is actually earning that running back 2 role in Los Angeles, especially with the injury. Okay. So now at this point, we probably just want to go ahead. Take my guy. We're going to take my guy here, pick 153 if he's available. Never mind, he is not. He goes right before us. Christian Watson was going to be an easy selection for me. And then we have Jameis Winston. What do y'all think about Jacoby Myers here? Spam who you want. Do you want Jacoby Myers? I think we have to take Myers over Isaiah Spiller, given the Isaiah Spiller injury and the reports that we were getting out of Los Angeles beforehand. But I think Myers is probably the optimal call. We have the majority of people saying Wan'Dale. We're going to go Wan'Dale Robinson for y'all. I think Wan'Dale, you can make the argument for if you're looking at the fact that we need to be optimizing for weeks 15, 16, 17 in this league. So let's go ahead. Let's take him here, but I'm not taking Tyler Algier. I'm not a massive Algier guy. And now Jack says, I forgot to mention it's a 3 wide receivers, 1 flex. Do you still recommend? Okay, so no, I mean, I'm sorry. If this is a 3 wide receiver, 1 flex league instead of a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, I actually would prefer going through, and I'm sorry for getting just flip-flopping on this, but I would prefer grabbing either Jamar Chase. You're not going to get Jefferson or Cup. But if you get a Jamar Chase or a Stephon Diggs falling to you at the 1-2 turn, I think you can deviate, and I think you can go with one of those wide receivers. If you're reaching on someone else like a Deebo Samuel, though, or even a Devontae Adams, I would just pass on those guys. Okay. So let's move this down. Robert Tonyan off the board, 156. Could be an interesting spot here. I think this is going to be a 3 tight end, a 3 quarterback build. May still end up getting Jacoby Myers on the way back around. Bamba on the clock. They just decided to take Robert Tonyan. And they go Hunter Henry. Okay, so they go back-to-back tight ends. We have Dalton Schultz, so we're not stressing at tight end. Braden says, should I try to avoid older running backs if I can, or should I go off projected points in ADP? Because running backs usually fall off after a certain age. We have this baked into our rankings. Like if you look at those tier 2 guys like a Dalvin Cook, like an Austin Eckler, like an Aaron Jones, like if it wasn't for them all being 27 years old or older, or like a Derrick Henry as well as the perfect example, they would be higher in our rankings. But no, you do have to just slightly discount them based on what you're looking at with their age. I don't want to go overboard with it though. And now I know a lot of people wanted us to go Tyler Algier in the last round, and I just shook it off saying, no, we're not doing that. Why would I do that? But here, if he falls this far, let's go ahead. Let's take him. Because I think if we're looking at tight ends as well, we could get possibly Noah Fant on the way back around. If we don't get Noah Fant on the way back, or do we want Isaiah Spiller? Let's go here. Let's go here. Let's go Algier. But what we were discussing is, yeah, so if you're looking at those like age 28, age 27 running backs, that is about the point where you do need to get worried. But we have that reflected in our rankings. Like we're not just ranking Derrick Henry at pick 1 because his points per game last year. Like you do have to keep that in mind. It's not like you can avoid them entirely though. Okay. So we have David Njoku, Isaiah Spiller directly off. I think once we take Tyler Algier here, we're probably done drafting running back. I think that we hammer in 2 quarterbacks at the very end, like a Jared Goff, as well as a Zach Wilson, just because they're going to be so damn cheap. We have some of their pass catchers that we drafted earlier on with this roster. Or if we're looking at even maybe like a Daniel Jones making it back to us to pick 177, given his rushing upside, I would really like to add like a Daniel Jones to this roster. Matt Ryan off the board, 164. I have very rarely drafted Matt Ryan. Like if we're looking at Matt Ryan compared to the quarterbacks you have in round 17, round 18, pretty much the same exact guy. And we are about to hit 800 likes in the live stream. If you have not dropped a like in the live stream yet, please go down there and drop one. We are going to fire up another draft for everybody. Will be a private draft after this one. If you want to see another draft, don't worry. It's going to be a private one. We will be able to send those links out. Primer says Eckler going to boom again. No clear number 2 running backs that they can trust. I agree with you. I think now that you have the negative reports about Isaiah Spiller and the Isaiah Spiller injury, Austin Eckler is more appealing. We had him ranked as running back 3, but I wasn't drafting a lot of them because we were preferring wide receiver in round 1 in this format in particular. But now I think if we go ahead, if we just look at the projected workload that he should have in Los Angeles, you have to be excited. Lucas says, how do I join your draft? Also, Allen Robinson or Michael Thomas. Thank you, my friend. We have Allen Robinson and Michael Thomas ranked in the same tier. I do have Michael Thomas ranked slightly before Allen Robinson, though. And if you want to get in our next draft, step 1, go sign up for Underdog. Everybody should know this by now. It's where we draft every single night. We do these drafts 3-4 hours in the live stream every single night. So if you want to draft with us, you still have plenty of time to do this. We don't take a single day off of this. And When you sign up for Underdog, use promo code FLOCK. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our 2022 fantasy football rankings. You'll get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide, and you can have some fun getting these drafts with us. But once you already have your Underdog account set up, we are going to send out a private draft link. It will say $3 draft here, $5 draft here, whatever it's going to be. You will see that in the live chat. You click the link, and you are directly in our live room. So if we're doing like a public tournament, like this is a high stakes tournament draft that we are in right now. This was a $250 buy-in. Like here, these aren't private drafts. You would have to join through the public lobby. But if we are looking at what we are setting up going forward, like what we are about to set up, it's going to be a private draft that you would just click that link. Okay. So we actually may end up getting 15th round Daniel Jones, which I would be very excited about if we can pair up Daniel Jones, Wan'Dale Robinson, get Daniel Jones in here with some rushing upside. Still probably would take a third quarterback when we waited so long for a second guy in a best ball format. Caesar says, Mason is the guide updated when you download from the first email a win bot. Okay, so if you bought the draft guide from flockfantasy.com, you should be able to directly go to flockfantasy.com, re-sign into your account, re-download the updated draft guide at no additional cost. If you got the draft guide by signing up for Underdog Fantasy with promo code FLOCK, all you have to do is send me a personal email. You can find my email address in the description of the live stream and send me that email saying, hey, Mason, I signed up for Underdog with email address Johnny1234@Yahoo. Can I please have the updated draft guide? Then I'll go through, I'll look up that email address on our Underdog signups. If I see that you signed up for Underdog Fantasy promo code FLOCK, I will send you that draft guide immediately, my friend. The updated version, of course. Underdog's going to send you the most up-to-date version at the time you sign up regardless. But Jack says, assume I take Joe in a receiver. Who do I take in the third? Okay, so at the 3-4 turn, it does get very awkward. I would say in a casual format, there's an outside chance that you end up getting late third round Kyle Pitts, which I would love that. Love that in the third round if you start running back and receiver. Now, if we are going to be looking beyond like the Kyle Pitts options, maybe if we are going to be diving into the third, probably looking at wide receiver, because I would imagine in your casual redraft format that teams are going to go through and they are going to be willing to push up running backs in the third, and you would be looking at someone that we're not as excited about, where you could potentially come away like a T. Higgins in the third round, which I would go in that direction. Okay. So now when we're on the clock, let's go through. Let's figure this out. Let's just take Taysom Hill. Do we want a 6 running back? How confident are we with Dalton Schultz? 3 picks left. Yeah, let's go Taysom Hill here. A lot of these quarterbacks are the exact same for us. In reality, if we are going to grab a third quarterback, I'm probably just going to look for Zach Wilson in the 17th round. I have a tight end that I actually like more than Taysom Hill available, but it does get pretty awkward when we can get that tight end in round 18 in pretty much every single draft. And obviously, Taysom Hill is not going to be available to us in the 17th. And yes, if Taysom Hill were to start games for the New Orleans Saints at the quarterback position, we could start him at our tight end spot on Underdog. Yes, that could happen. I don't necessarily think that it's very likely. It's possible, but I don't exactly know what to do here. Okay, so let's move this down quickly. Now, after we take Taysom Hill, you have Isaiah Likely at 187. I do like the Isaiah Likely selection because if we just think of the tournament aspect to this, like even if you think that Taysom Hill's a marginally better pick, there's going to be a large portion of teams in this, leagues in this tournament where no team drafted Isaiah Likely. Like, you will have Likely at very low ownership across the board, where Taysom Hill is going to be owned in like every single one of these. So if Taysom Hill does turn into that true league winning player and you get to that week 15, 16, 17 stretch, you are going to be going up against a lot of teams that have Taysom Hill as well, whereas you won't be going up against many teams with Isaiah Likely. Okay, so Darrell Williams off the board, 192. Mariano says, what happens if Taysom Hill plays quarterback? If Taysom Hill plays quarterback, we get quarterback points at our tight end slot. That's what happens. Now, I will say, highly unlikely. They bring in Andy Dalton. I think when they have Andy Dalton here, it's highly, highly unlikely that Taysom Hill ever does start a quarterback, but there still is an outside chance that you get some weird goal line packages where he is able to go through and score points that way. Lucas coming out. Thank you, my friend. Says, love the content. How high are you taking Alvin Kamara in drafts? And how high are you taking Javonte Williams in a PPR format? And would you rather have Dalvin Cook or Najee Harris? Dalvin Cook and Najee Harris are in the exact same tier for me. I mean, that's that tier 2 of running backs where everybody has red flags. Everybody has upside. It is going to come down to your personal preference. Now, I, in a lot of these drafts, end up just going in the direction of Najee Harris. But on Underdog in particular, you can possibly get Dalvin Cook in the first, Najee Harris in the second. Now, I will say, if we are going to be looking at Alvin Kamara and Javonte Williams, with Kamara, I know everybody just wants to slide him up to that Dalvin Cook tier and just say that there's a 0% chance that he is suspended. And you were talking to someone that was able to draft a lot of 4th round Alvin Kamara. 4th round Alvin Kamara. Back like a month ago when everybody was so suspended. I mean, was so worried that he was going to be suspended 6 weeks. Kamara was like the easiest selection in the world to take advantage of that fear, to shoot for the highest ceiling possible. Now, I know everybody is on the complete opposite end of the spectrum now because we have a Schefter report saying that you don't need to be worried about it. I'm still going to be kind of riding the fence there where I think that we probably should at least keep it in the back of our minds that there is the potential Alvin Kamara suspension. So Kamara is going to be a mid round 2 pick for me, not a high end round 2, low end round 1. And with the Javonte Williams, we're going to have him in low round 2 as well, or mid round 2 if you're playing in a shallow casual format. Okay, so we have Jameson Crowder off the board, 199. So Logan Thomas was going to be the tight end that we were looking at. Now, if we're looking at these tight ends, honestly, I may not even draft another one of these guys. Tight end situation is just freaking gross. You know what I'm going to do here? I understand, yes, we're going to get 0 points for a quarterback in week 9. I get it. You don't have to tell me. But in a tournament-style draft where we are highly, highly, highly incentivized to score as many points as we possibly can in weeks 15, 16, 17. I think that Deshaun Watson at pick 201, if he can come out and during that 3-week stretch be the quarterback 1 overall, we'd be turning this $250 buy-in into $100,000. Like, I think that you do have a very high ceiling for Deshaun Watson when it actually matters. I think that we will be able to sneak this team through. So let's go ahead. Let's take Watson. Zach Wilson off the board in the 18. Zach Wilson was the quarterback that we were initially thinking about. Okay. Now, after this, what are we looking at? I guess we go with our guy, David Bell. It's either David Bell or Will Fuller. Sit here and think for a second. I was going to go with the 3rd tight end. We have Dalton Schultz. I don't think we need to. Let's go David Bell. I want as much David Bell as I could possibly have in my life. I want as much David Bell as I could possibly have. But that should be, I think, a unique team that does have a lot of ceiling, a very high ceiling for weeks 15, 16, 17. Even if that team does have a very low floor, I'll be the first person to admit that. But in those tournament drafts, I'm drafting for ceiling, not floor. And now let me go through, set up a draft where we are drafting for a nice floor. Let's set up this $3 private draft. I'm going to send out a link in the live chat right now if you want to get in this draft. Just going to say $3 draft here. $3 draft here. Okay, we just sent that out in the live chat for anybody who's wanted to come out and draft with us. And I'm sure that this is going to get filled in 1 second. Let's move this back around. Draft starting in 60 seconds. Okay, so we're going to be selecting a pick 7 here. I think with 7, we're probably looking at Stephon Diggs, but I don't want to speak too soon. If we get like an Austin Eckler fall into us now that we have no running back 2 situation locked in Los Angeles, I think that we can be very excited about it. So Zachary 23, obviously a long-time member of the flock here. We're drafting next to Sammy Bullock as well. I think outside of that, Falcoholics is a name that I recognize. But let me know if you are in this live chat right now and you're able to get into this draft. Please let me know what your underdog name is. Please let me know what your underdog name is. We have Jonathan Taylor off the board at 1. No surprise. CMC at 2. Just this is what you expect so far through the first 2 picks. I'd imagine we get Jefferson, Kupp, Chase. Yeah, Jefferson at 3. AJ says, my name is everyone goes off against me. Mark says, every fantasy analyst and their mom prefers, I love the statement, my man, prefers Sutton over Jerry Jeudy, but none of them gave the stats you provided. Got Jeudy at pick 58 when Sutton went at 37. Yeah, I mean, I think that everybody is hopping on the same bandwagon because the thing is, if you're like a fantasy football analyst and you just say what everybody else is saying, it's very hard for anybody to ever get mad at you. It's very hard for you to ever look stupid because say if Jerry Jeudy ends up being the wide receiver 1 in Denver, and I have these guys ranked back to back. I have Jerry Jeudy wide receiver 18, Courtland Sutton wide receiver 19. But obviously, like you're saying, you ended up getting Jerry Jeudy at pick 58 and Sutton 37. So what happens if Jerry Jeudy does end up outperforming Courtland Sutton and everybody had Sutton before him because they saw their neighbor do it and they saw their neighbor do it. They saw their neighbor. Nobody looks stupid. It's like, okay, that was expected. But I don't know. Okay. So we have Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry going right after us. And if we are looking at our Stephon Diggs selection, the only reason we made this is because you have to start 3 wide receivers. We'll find solid running back value later on. I mean, legitimately, I'm never doing this in the casual format. In the casual redraft league, you go with the running back here. You don't think twice about it. But in this best ball format where you have to start 3 wide receivers and obviously it's best ball, you are going to have a decent amount of value falling to you. Mark Andrews goes at 13 before Travis Kelce. I like the bold call. Going Mark Andrews at 13. Earlier this offseason, you did have a decent amount of teams going Mark Andrews at the very beginning of the second. At the same time, I don't know. I mean, I'm just going to take the value when he falls to the late second. And Michael says, thoughts on Quinn Conway's ADP after injury? Brutal. Going to be falling. Obviously, no idea who that is, but it's going to be brutal. Saquon Barkley goes pick 16. Joe Mixon 15. DeAndre Swift off the board. What was the report with Aaron Jones? Let's try some stuff out. Let's go Deebo Samuel here. Let's try out the double wide receiver star. We'll see if we can find some running back value that we like later on. I mean, in one of these drafts, we went wide receiver early. We ended up getting round 6, David Montgomery, round 7, Josh Jacobs, and we ended up getting like Miles Sanders after pick 100. We just went with the all running back hated team, and I actually really did like it. I really did like it. Okay. So we have Javonte Williams off the board here, pick 21. Let me know what y'all think of that Deebo Samuel selection. Let's see if we can end up getting running back value falling to us. Trying something new. We'll see if it works out. KW says Kelsey's about to be 33. Yeah, I actually talk about that in the draft guide for Travis Kelce. Where I lay out like the fact that the only other player that's even 32 years old, the only other guy that's even in the same ballpark of age as a Travis Kelce is Marvin Jones. And with Marvin Jones going like in the 14th round, obviously on waiver wires of casual leagues. So it is crazy to see Kelce maintain this value, but at the same time, he didn't drop off too much last year. He was back-to-back with Andrews from a points per game perspective. And there, of course, is volume available in one of the best passing offenses in the NFL with the departure of Tyreek Hill in Kansas City. Okay, so let's move this back around. So Kyle Pitts goes pick 27. Kyle Pitts would have been someone we were looking at. Keenan Allen off the board here, 28. Leonard Fournette gone. Okay, let's think through this. Y'all know I'm not a massive Michael Pittman guy. I mean, he's being drafted as a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. I don't think it's guaranteed like everybody else thinks it is. So usually I don't end up with a lot of him. But if he does fall here, let's go ahead. Let's take him. We committed to that wide receiver heavy approach early on and to try to find that running back value later on. Let's go Diggs, Debo, Pittman with the first 3 rounds. And let's see what running back value that we can get late. But I know I sound like a broken record, but I don't see why just everybody thinks it's guaranteed that Michael Pittman's a wide receiver 1 this year. I understand he was good last year. And yes, it is an upgrade. I think it is a slight upgrade. If we are looking at the switch from Carson Wentz to Matt Ryan. But we have to remember that Matt Ryan is not the quarterback that he was a long time ago. Here with Matt Ryan, this is someone that we need to drastically lower expectations of based on the efficiency drop-off we've seen over the past 2 seasons. And Michael Pittman was the wide receiver 28 on a points per game basis last year. Now, with all that being said, when he falls 4 picks past his ADP, when we're going wide receiver heavy, when we already have so much DJ Moore and haven't drafted a lot of Pittman, we will take him. Nicholas says, 10-team full PPR, 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 flex. What should I focus on in the first 7 rounds? 1 stud running back, then all wide receivers and tight ends, or what? I would say honestly, I hate to give you this answer. Of course, it's a lazy answer. It's a boring answer. You don't need to be making too many adjustments. You don't need to be making too many adjustments at all. Like, we make those rankings videos. Like, our draft guide is for a 12-team, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end, and 2 flex spot league. And same thing if you're going to be looking at any of the overall rankings videos that we make on the channel. But because you add that extra starting wide receiver slot and you remove 2 teams from the league, it actually kind of balances out. So at that point, I would just go ahead. I would take best value available to you. Noah coming out says, would you trade Javonte Williams for Cortland Sutton and J.K. Dobbins? In a deeper league where, say, you start 8 or more options, not including kicker or defense, and there are 12 or more teams, yes. In a shallow format where you only start 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, a tight end, and a flex, no. Now, Dan says, I'm drafting Brandon Ayuk this year at his ADP over Deebo Samuel. I understand the thought process, my friend, and I passed on Deebo Samuel deliberately in the last draft, even though we needed wide receiver. And the reason we passed on Deebo is I'm right there with you. I think we see some serious rushing regression from Deebo Samuel, where I don't think the usage is sustainable from what we had last year. I think that Lance possibly does fit a little bit better with his playing style with the Brandon Ayuk versus a Deebo Samuel. So I completely understand that, my friend. Completely understand it. Okay. Now, we have Darren Waller, Jalen Hurts off the board. So Jalen Hurts pretty damn early here. I'm not going to make the argument for anybody taking Jalen Hurts at this point. George Kittle goes as well. What was the report that we have with Kansas City? I mean, with Juju Smith-Schuster in Kansas City. Won't play week 3. That's not a big surprise. It doesn't even really matter. Okay, but I was looking. I guess maybe they just changed the preseason for good after the COVID year, because looks like this is the last week of the preseason, right? I'm looking at this preseason. Week 4 of 4 starts on the 25th. The 25th through the 28th, and then we have a 10-day gap until we have the official kickoff, Bills versus Rams. Okay. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Juju Smith-Schuster, potential wide receiver 1 for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Juju's probably the Kansas City Chief that I've drafted the least of outside of Isaiah Pacheco this year. And we've already talked about Isaiah Pacheco enough. But with Juju, it's fine. Now, Jacob says, I have 3 fifth-round picks in a non-PPR format. Who do I go for? Non-PPR format is going to be a little bit awkward. I would say that your league mates should understand to go through and move up those running backs. Now, if we don't have one of those running backs making it to us with one of those fifth-round selections, I would love to grab an elite-level quarterback. If you don't like a running back that if you don't see a running back that you really like, grab an elite level quarterback, because in a non-PPR format, I know you would assume that that doesn't really change quarterback value, but across the board, all positions are going to score less outside of the quarterback position. So the overall percentage of the starting lineup output that they're going to account for is actually a little bit higher. They're going to have a larger effect on your win rate this upcoming season. So I would go ahead. I would draft a quarterback in the 5th if we can. Michael says, a big question. What are your thoughts on... Okay. A bunch of players that I've never heard of before. Okay. I'm not going to say these names because I don't know if we had someone trying to get me to say some crap stuff earlier on. I just looked up Griffin Connor. Looks like he is a... Maybe these are friends in your league, hopefully. I'm sorry. But thank you for the support, my friend. And I would like a little bit of a backstory in the live chat of who the hell those people are. Now, Endless Football out here, I see you again. Thank you, of course, for always coming out and hanging out with us in the chat. Okay, so Trey Lance off the board. Let's move this over. Now we have Montgomery off 65. Let's go ahead. Let's take Elijah Mitchell here. I mean, with Elijah Mitchell, I think it is going to be an easy selection. We need another running back. We don't have access to an elite level QB. Usually in the 6th round, I really like going with the Jalen Hurts. Usually I really like going with the Kyler Murray, but we're just not going to have that option. So far with this draft, keep in mind, you have to start 3 wide receivers here. So these guys are going to slide up boards. We have Diggs, Debo, Pittman, Juju Smith-Schuster, and we have Ezekiel Elliott and Elijah Mitchell at running back. Okay, so Adam Thielen off the board, pick 68. Joe Burrow, 69. Y'all know usually there is one player that I go through and I try to get in the 7th round when we get the opportunity to. We'll see. We'll see. Devonta Smith off the board, 70. And we are about 150 likes away from firing up another draft after this one. So if you have not done so already, go down there, drop a like in the live stream. And if you want to join our next draft, of course, we're drafting on Underdog. You can find the link to join our next draft in the live chat. You can find it in the description of the video. When you sign up for Underdog, just make sure you use promo code FLOCK. When you use promo code FLOCK and make that $10 deposit, they'll match a deposit so you have $20 in your account. And I'm no mathematician, but that means you can get into 6 drafts with us that are best ball, so it takes no time at all during the season. That's how I'm able to draft over 600 of these teams. And when you use promo code FLOCK, not only do you get to draft with us, but you get our 2022 fantasy football rankings and a 300-page fantasy football draft guide by yours truly with that $10 deposit. The best $10 draft guide you will ever get. And I can guarantee that. I can guarantee it. Now, Tony Pollard off the board here, pick 75. Let's scoot this over. Jacobs goes 76. Jacobs is usually the guy that we're looking at. And I have noticed, did something come out with Dalton Schultz today? Y'all know Dalton Schultz is one of my least players drafted in fantasy when he's been going in the 6th round. I just have never been able to pay up that price. Let me look at this. He goes... Yeah, so now that he's off the board, let's go ahead. Let's take Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Let's take a running back that I'm drafting in the 7th round very often. I mean, we get him in the 8th round a lot as well, but because this is a tournament draft, I don't feel the need to go through and try to figure out exactly how we get the best value with every single one of these selections. I think we are going to be fine here. Okay. And we have DeAndre Hopkins, Christian Kirk off the board. So usually I would be very excited about drafting DeAndre Hopkins in the middle of the 7th in those tournament drafts where we need to optimize for weeks 15, 16, 17. But in these private drafts, cumulative scoring weeks 1 through 17, just who can put up the most points. So I think DeAndre Hopkins is less appealing in that format, obviously, because, I mean, you're going to have to be taking those zeros for the first 6. Okay, so we have Chase Edmonds off the board here, 84. Ramondre Stevenson, 85. I don't necessarily think we need to be dying for running backs to make it back to us. I mean, we have 3 guys with Ezekiel Elliott, Elijah Mitchell, as well as Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So it is what it is. Stevenson, Chris Olave. Dameon Pierce off the board. Pierce is not someone we're looking at. I think we can go ahead. We can grab an elite level quarterback here. Now, between these two guys with Tom Brady and Dak Prescott, they're going to be in the same tier for me. Let me just use the tiebreaker that we have in Ezekiel Elliott. Maybe we go through, make that concentrated bet on the Dallas Cowboys offense. I really do like the value that we have later on in drafts as well. If we are going to be looking at like a Michael Gallup, I'm going to be very excited about taking Gallup in a vacuum. So if we take Dak Prescott here, honestly, we're probably able to reach on Michael Gallup when we get the shot. Okay, so we have Miles Sanders finally off the board, pick 94. And guys, I'm not going to lie to you. I've drafted a decent amount of Miles Sanders with him falling to the 8th round. But looking at the usage of Boston Scott, like if Boston Scott still maintains a role in Philadelphia this upcoming season, it is going to be very, very, very difficult for Miles Sanders to get there. Like, I think if we end up with a nice role for Boston Scott, how does Miles Sanders return value, assuming that Kenneth Gainwell, of course, is used as well? And this coming from someone who's drafted a decent amount of them. I've drafted a decent amount of them. Okay. So we have MVS off the board, pick 99. There are a couple of running backs that I really like in this range. I don't necessarily want to say exactly who. I mean, y'all should know by now that I'm not going through and drafting Dawson Knox. Like, I do not think that round 9 Dawson Knox makes sense at all if you're able to go through, if you are able to just pull off Pat Freiermuth in the 12th. So, no, we're not taking Dawson Knox. I don't care that we don't have a tight end. I don't even care what value, what player goes. So Boyd, Lockett. Okay, so now that we have both those wide receivers off the board, we're definitely taking running back. Question is just what running back do we take? We already have some old dusty running backs here with an Ezekiel Elliott, so I think we can just go ahead. We can take the rookie with James Cook. I mean, James Cook is a great value here, in my opinion, if we're just going to go through, if we're going to look at the range of outcomes that he has, because he should step in to being the passing down running back in Buffalo day one. And of course, if he were to be able to go through and get the red zone role in Buffalo, he should have access to a very high ceiling. The issue is he's a very small running back. Like, he's never going to be a 3-down player. He literally just can't handle it. He's a running back with a BMI of less than 28. He weighs less than 200 pounds. So I definitely think that we need to be making that adjustment where we see fit. But hell, it's pick 103. It's 103. Let's go ahead and let's make it. Okay. Let's scroll this down. And if we're looking at the fact that we have 4 running backs here, like, I think these 4 running backs are good enough for us. Let me know what y'all think, but like being able to get running back values of like Ezekiel Elliott in the middle of the 4th, Elijah Mitchell in the middle of the 6th, CEH in the 7th, James Cook past pick 100. I am not too worried about this. Not too worried about it. Dawson Knox finally off the board. And at this point, if we're going to be looking at quarterbacks, not too many of these names are intriguing for me. Like, I wouldn't have taken a Derek Carr here. Like, I'm never taking Derek Carr here. Maybe if we have Davante Adams, maybe if we have Darren Waller, sure, I'll take Derek Carr in the middle of the 10th. But 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be passing on him. Someone that I actually do take in these private drafts in particular, where we kind of want to front in that production for weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, and we don't need to worry about the last 3 weeks. I am fine taking Zach Ertz in this format in particular. Let's see if he ends up falling. If he doesn't fall, we'll go Melvin Gordon. Michael says, should I take tight end? Okay. I'll get the joke here, my friend. You got to fill me in. You got to fill me in. Let's go Melvin Gordon. So we're going to get Melvin Gordon as a running back 5 here. I think Melvin Gordon should see a smaller role than he had last year. But if Melvin Gordon had the same role last year that he did, had the same role this year that he did last, he would be going way before this. So it is baked into the price that you get more Javonte Williams, less Melvin Gordon here if we are taking Melvin Gordon to pick 114. But obviously you do have the contingency upside as well. If something were to occur to Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon could have that very high ceiling. Okay. Kobe Short says, do you think you'll get into finals in any tourney? I really hope so, my friend. I really, really hope so. Because what I really want to do is I want to be able to go through and like live stream. Like if we're in the finals of Best Ball Mania, which is a very, very low chance. Like very low chance it actually happens. I think that we should go ahead and just start live streaming like right away. Like if we're in the finals, I'll probably do a live stream. I don't know if we should do it on Thursday. Just start it that early. Or if we should wait until Sunday to see if we have any realistic shot. It would be really cool. Like if we were in the finals of Best Ball Mania where there was $2 million up for first and we were one of the last 150 teams going for it. If we could like live stream it and just watch the games with y'all and sweat it out. Like imagine if we would win it on a live stream. Like that's my dream, guys. That is my dream. So we have Rashad White, pick 122. And if there was a year that I was going to get in the finals, I think we have a lot of dead teams. Like there are a lot of teams that I've drafted, like say a Ronald Jones, or maybe that I took Josh Jacobs in the beginning of the 6th round. Like there are a lot of teams that I think that probably have a low chance of doing anything. But at the same time, that's like the advantage that you get with drafting early, that you have those wide range of outcomes. I have those very bad teams, but on the opposite end of the spectrum, I have some teams where we went on the same roster, Alvin Kamara in the 4th round and Michael Thomas in the 8th. And we have some teams where we got 4th round Alvin Kamara and 8th round Michael Thomas. And then James Winston, of course, for the stack. So like, I think that there is that shot that like one of those teams that we drafted a while ago where we got some crazy value, where I think that we were rightfully taking just shots, swings for the fences. Because, I mean, y'all should see, that's how I draft in those tournament drafts. You should know that by now. I'm not going through trying to draft for 6th. I'm trying to draft for either last or first. I don't want anything in between. I think there's a chance that we get one of those teams to the finals, which would just be so cool. It would be like the coolest thing ever. Okay, so let's move this down. So we take Russell Gage 127. With 2 Tagovailoa 132. Ryan coming out. Thank you, of course, for always hanging out in the live stream with us, friend. Says Olave, Sky Moore, or Marcus Valdez-Scantling at pick 88. I have Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen. I mean, I think that we're swinging for the fences here. I need to go ahead. I need to update our rankings post Chiefs training camp, where it does sound like you have a lot of hype currently centering around Sky Moore, not as much for Marcus Valdez-Scantling. So if we're swinging for the fences in like a casual redraft format, let's go ahead. Let's take probably Sky Moore. If you're drafting on underdog, I think Chris Olave could make sense, just given the spike weeks you could potentially see with a Jameis Winston. So I think if you're in a casual redraft format, let's go Sky Moore, because once we know his role, we'll know to whether cut him or ride him out with a very high ceiling the rest of the season. And if we're drafting like an underdog, let's go Chris Olave, because I think he is a much better receiver. Okay, so now I think we just go ahead and take Justin Fields. Now, of course, with Justin Fields, we don't have any Chicago players. I don't give a damn. But he does have an elite rushing ceiling. And, know, I've been a Justin Fields, or at least compared to the rest of the fantasy football community, I'm going to remember how much hate last year. People literally hated me last year for coming out and speaking negatively very often about Justin Fields. But I think we can go ahead. I think we can take him here. Once he's fallen this far, now you don't have to take him. Remember, it was consensus that people were taking him over freaking, oh my gosh. It's crazy to say this. People were taking him over Trey Lance. That was happening. That was real life. Now that's not happening. Now we are getting him at a value. Let's take him at 138. Does put us in an awkward spot. Like, do we draft a third quarterback in a best ball format here? I think we'll see what kind of value falls to us. Like, if it was a tournament draft, no way in hell we draft a third quarterback. But because it's a private draft and we don't just need to try to get the highest ceiling possible, I think we could. Zachary coming out says, criticize my pick, my man. Hope you are doing good. Yes, sir, I'm doing great. Thank you, of course, for always hanging out with us over the past few years. And let's go through. Let's check out Zachary's team sitting there at the 101. So I'll say, Zachary, expectations are high when you're at the 101, my friend. Expectations are real high. Jonathan Taylor, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, Jerry Jeudy. Okay, great start through the first 5 rounds. Like, what am I supposed to say negative through the first 5 rounds with this start? Now, in terms of the Allen Lazard selection, I think you know this. I think you know that I am not a big Allen Lazard guy. I think if we're looking at the depth chart on paper for the Green Bay Packers, of course, he does look like the wide receiver 1. But there's a lot of uncertainty within the NFL season. I think that there's an outside chance that you end up getting the wide receiver 1 here as a Christian Watson, as a Romeo Doubs, who I actually see they decided to take a little later on here. And then at pick 73, we go Russell Wilson. A little early for Wilson, but you know for a fact he's not going to make it back to you at 96. And you took Jerry Jeudy, so I'm fine with it. Antonio Gibson, 96. I think you can't take Gibson here. At this point, Antonio Gibson literally looks like he may be the backup behind Brian Robinson. Oh, crap. No. Okay, thank God. Oh, my gosh. We almost auto-drafted Isaiah Spiller there. That would have been very bad, but we saved it. But then beyond the Antonio Gibson pick, Robert Woods, I'm fine with. Darrell Henderson, I'm fine with. I like the Irv Smith Jr. value. I like the KJ. You're not getting KJ Hamler at a value, but I like taking him here for the double stack with Russell Wilson. Specifically, the pick that I really don't like is Antonio Gibson. I mean, literally, if it was 2 weeks ago and you would have made the pick, I would have liked the value, but based on the preseason usage, it's not something we can just go out there and ignore. I think we do have to make those adjustments. Now we have a question coming out from Kashin. Thank you, my friends. This is pick 12, best start for 3 wide receivers in a flex in a half PPR format. I would say if you're playing in a casual league, you're still going to be able to find wide receiver value later. So I'm not too interested in going like wide receiver on the turn. But if Stephon Diggs were to fall, I don't think Chase falls. I don't think Jefferson falls. I don't think Kupp falls. But if Stephon Diggs were to fall to you at pick 12, I think you go ahead, you take him. And then dependent on how you feel out your league mates and your probability of getting a Kyle Pitts at the end of the 3rd, or if you think you could potentially get a George Kittle or Darren Waller at the end of the 5th, I think you either go Kelsey or running back with the 2nd pick. But really, in that casual league, the only wide receiver I'm going to be looking at there would be a Stephon Diggs. Okay. Now we have Wan'Dale Robinson, 156. So a lot of tight ends going after us. Not going to lie to you, I probably would have taken a tight end if we were not reading Zachary's team. Like the KJ Osborne selection, I don't really like. It's okay. It's not the end of the world that we took him. The only reason I took him there is because we just absolutely panicked. I saw that we were about to get timed out on Isaiah Spiller, who right now may be the running back 3 in his backfield, dealing with an injury. And of course, especially in this private draft where it's just cumulative scoring, who can score the most points weeks 1 through 17, it would be very difficult to take him in this format. But red alert, guys. We need another 120 likes to fire up another draft after this one. So if you have not done so already, if you want to see another draft, go down there, drop a like in the stream. I think at this point, we just go ahead. We're going to go Robert Tonyan. Let's go Robert Tonyan. I mean, we need to start taking shots on tight ends here, especially once we see Tyler Higbee off the board. The chance that we get a tight end that we like on the way back around, very, very slim. Very slim. Okay, so let's go through and scroll this down. Should we go Robert Tonyan? You have Robbie Anderson off the board. Robbie Anderson would have been the guy I was considering. I think we do need to begin to ask ourselves, like, is Isaiah Spiller a viable pick if he makes it back to us at pick 175? I think he probably is. I think Isaiah Spiller is probably a viable option if he makes it back to us at pick 175. Let's see if it ends up happening, of course. This is just a significantly cheaper price than you're used to, but it's looking like a much worse situation than what we would have thought a month ago. Okay, so Van Jefferson, Jameson Williams off the board. Usually, Jameson Williams is someone that I am in love with at the end of the 14th round. Usually, I am drafting as much Jameson Williams as I can in those tournament drafts or really any league that has the fantasy football playoffs. But it's going to be difficult here. It will be difficult here. Okay. We have Noah Fant, 170. Evan Ingram, 171. Let's see. I think Isaiah Spiller gone. Zamir White's someone that I've talked down on for a while now. Like, I do have to just kind of come out here and take my L with Isaiah Spiller. And that this is a running back that now you have Kenyon Drake cut. All of a sudden, he is a much more viable pick here. Like, I think you can get away with taking Zamir White. Like, we've talked down on him a while, but let's take him as our 6th RB. And if we're going to look at someone else, let's take him. He should be the locked-in running back 2 in Las Vegas at this point. Like I said, I used to literally say, like, I would never take Zamir White here at this point because I thought the backfield was so muddied behind Jacobs. But if there's no Kenyon Drake, all of a sudden he is in a much better situation. Okay. So let's move this. Newsflash says, how hype are you for the NFL season? Y'all don't even know. Like, this is all I think about 365 days a year. This is all I think about 365 days a year. Like, I wake up, and even during the offseason, like with how busy we are on the Dynasty channel, the only thing I do every single day of my life is fantasy football. Like, I know y'all are probably excited for the NFL season, but I can tell you for a goddamn fact, you're not remotely as excited as I am. Like, could not get here fast enough. Okay. So let's move this over. We have Raheem Mostert at 179. Sean Patel says, wait, the draft guide and rankings are 2 different files. No, you have the rankings inside the draft guide as well. So if you just go and pull up the draft guide, I mean, if you go sign up for, I think you just signed up for Underdog Fantasy and got that email, you will have 2 different files that Underdog Fantasy emails you after you sign up. And one of them is our draft guide. You'll have the rankings in there as well. You can see those. Just open the draft guide. I think they're on like page 3, our top 150 rankings. Okay, so we have Eno Benjamin off the board at 180. Eno Benjamin obviously looking like the running back 2 in Arizona at this point, even though we thought it was going to end up being. Darrell Williams, of course, once Darrell Williams signed. I mean, way back when these drafts first opened up, people were taking Keontae Ingram. People thought Keontae Ingram was going to be the running back 2 in Arizona. Okay, so Taysom Hill off the board. I think we just have to take tight end at this point. I think we're going to go ahead and take Austin Hooper or Brevin Jordan, whoever we get. I mean, it's kind of whatever. So at quarterback, we have Dak Prescott, Justin Fields. Running back, we have Ezekiel Elliott, Elijah Mitchell, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, James Cook, Melvin Gordon, Zamir White. At wide receiver, we have Stephon Diggs, Deebo Samuel, Michael Pittman, Juju Smith-Schuster, Russell Gage, as well as KJ Osborne. In a private draft, I actually think that this is a team that should have a very high median projection and a team that I think I am excited about. If it was a tournament draft, oh no, I'd hate this team. Tournament draft, I'd hate this team. Private draft, it's fine. But we are 70 likes away on the live stream from firing up that next draft. So I'm assuming that y'all are trying to take it down to the very last end, hit that buzzer beater. But if you have not done so already, make sure you go down there, drop a like in the stream. And if you want to join our next draft, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up. You can find the link in the description, find it in the live chat. And when you sign up for Underdog and use promo code FLOCK and make a $10 deposit, you'll have $20 in your account because they double it. And then on top of that, you are going to get our 2022 fantasy football rankings and our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. Okay. So let's move this down. After we take Hooper, what are we looking for? What do we want? I don't know. We still need a third tight end. We definitely need a third tight end with this build. I mean, Logan Thomas is someone that we take a lot, but I think that since we're in this draft and people know we like Logan Thomas, I want to be surprised if someone snipes us on him. Let's move this over. Sammy Watkins, 194. So does it look like Sammy Watkins is going to make the team? If Watkins makes the team, I think he should be running a lot of routes, primarily just because his field stretching ability and how he can take attention away from safeties. Let's look up Sammy Watkins on Twitter to see if we have anything. Yeah, so if you look at Sammy Watkins on Twitter, all it's talking about is how he's saying Patrick Mahomes is good, but Aaron Rodgers is on a different level. I don't think that's too important for... maybe he's doing everything he can to make the team. Actually, it's probably a pretty good call that Sammy Watkins is coming out here saying that about Aaron Rodgers, that he's on a different level than Patrick Mahomes if he wants to make the team. Yeah, probably a pretty good call, Sammy. Good call. Good call. Okay. So let's go through, scroll this down. AJ Green off the board at 200. I actually like AJ Green in this format compared to that tournament league that we were talking about. And once we take Logan Thomas, we are going to be done at tight ends. I think we can go ahead and maybe fire up a third QB here. Obviously, it's not going to raise our ceiling. Like, if you were drafting in a tournament draft, you would just 100%, 110%. You have to take the last wide receiver. But in this private league, I don't know. Carly coming out, thank you, says, do you think... Okay, what are y'all talking about? Why are y'all throwing these random people at me? Don't know who Conway is, but I do think Conway does have running back 1 potential. Don't know if that was the clip you're looking for, but if it was, you got it. You got it, my friend. Okay. Okay, so we have David Bell off the board 204. Y'all know our guy, David Bell. Happy to see him getting his respect he deserves. I feel like I'm the only guy who drafts him. So let's move this over. If we were to take a quarterback, what quarterbacks are here? Mariota. I think the question is, who scores more points for us, Curtis Samuel or Marcus Mariota? We don't have a single wide receiver on the same bye week as well. I do think we're going to have 3 guys that can start every single week. We may just go ahead, grab Mariota here. It's like gross, but I mean, are these wide receivers special in any way imaginable? I don't think so. Yeah, let's go ahead. Let's take Mariota. We're not doing this in a tournament draft, but in a private draft, I think we can. And real quick, we are 40 likes away on the stream from firing up another draft. So if you want another draft, make sure you go down there, drop a like on the live stream. If not, no worries. We can always fire up another one tomorrow. I mean, we did 4 drafts on the stream tonight, and we were live for 2.5 hours, almost 3 hours at this point. Morph coming out says Adams, Akers, Sanders for Cooper Kupp and J.K. Dobbins. 12-team PPR. Okay, 100% just go get, I would say, Cooper Kupp and J.K. Dobbins. 100% get Cooper Kupp, Dobbins. I probably prefer Dobbins over Akers at this point when we have the Gus Edwards news. And on top of it, if you're going to be looking at the gap between Adams and Kupp, it's freaking massive, massive. Okay, so don't know if we have people trying to hit a buzzer beater here, but believe we are 20 likes away from firing this up. Let me check some stuff real quick. Let me scroll back, see if we missed anything. Nathan says, with the Isaiah Spiller injury, does this push Eckler into the same tier as those top 5 guys? This is something I talked about earlier on the live stream. I do think with the Austin Eckler guarantee that he's not going to have to deal with increased competition for touches. Yes. I think if you want to take Eckler before Jamar Chase now, of course, we always advocated for taking Eckler over those wide receivers in a shallow casual redraft format. But even on Underdog, where I was previously making fun of people for going through and deciding to fire up like Austin Eckler pick 4, Austin Eckler pick 5 over Jamar Chase, I think now it's viable. Now it's viable because Isaiah Spiller, it was a real concern that he was going to have a larger role than what you've had with the running back 2s in Los Angeles over the past few seasons. Of course, now we know that that's not something we have to worry about, though, or at least for the beginning portion of the season. But AWA says, is A.J. Dillon, 6th round, a good running back 1 for a 0 RB build? Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I would say like 6th round. Other guys that I'm looking at in that range based on the ADP we have on Underdog, like I probably do prefer to go out and just grab someone like an Elijah Mitchell, if I'm going to be honest. Let me make sure that we don't have any tournaments we can get in. Yeah, no tournaments that are too appealing. So let's go ahead. Let's fire up a $3 private draft. So I'm just going to create this private draft. Don't go try to join anything on the Underdog public lobby. It's going to be a private draft. I'm going to send the link out in the live chat and we'll say $3 draft here. And you just go click that link and you're in. Okay. Sean says, Mason, does the news about Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon being a running back 1As change your rankings? No. That's what a coach is supposed to say. Supposed to hype up his players. Yeah, I'm not changing due to coach speak. What we need to be worried about, if you are drafting Aaron Jones, what you need to be worried about is A.J. Dillon taking the red zone role. If A.J. Dillon doesn't take those red zone touches, it doesn't matter what you have with A.J. Dillon's workload. It just won't matter. But it is a real concern. It will be something that we need to monitor. Okay. So let's go through. We get 103. Honestly, I really like 103. It would have been nice if we could have got this in a $250 draft instead of having to deal with pick 12s and pick 12 and 9. It is what it is. It is what it is. Okay. So if you try to click the link and you went straight to the lobby, it's probably because the draft filled too fast. I'm sorry. We're going to continue to go through, and I'm going to continue to. I don't know what else I can do for you guys. I mean, we are drafting what, our 5th draft here. This is our 5th draft of the live stream. We do this every single night for 3 hours. You are going to get a chance to come in. I promise you that. Promise you that. Let's go ahead. Let's take Justin Jefferson at 3. I would go ahead, very similar to what we were discussing earlier. If it was a casual, shallow redraft format, you can take Eckler here. Eckler's a fine pick. Carly coming out says, you think Griff Connor has quarterback 1 upside if eligible? Probably top 3 upside. Like, not just quarterback 1 upside. He could be the QB1 overall. Dan says, I'm at the 107, maybe my least favorite LOL. It used to be my least favorite, but to be completely honest, now I like the 107 more than the 112. I like it more than the 111. Harrison says, who is the bigger dog in PPR, Conway or Big Rye? I'd probably have to go with the name Big Rye. Big Rye sounds like it. Or you know what? Big Rye sounds like he could be compensated for something. Let's go Conway. Let's go Conway. Now, Derrick Henry off the board at 9 here. Tyler says, if Logan Thomas plays 5 games, I will be surprised. I understand that was a severe injury for Logan Thomas. Didn't we get a positive blurb about him recently, though? Yeah, look at this. Now, saying that you would be surprised if we get 9 games out of him, that seems a little aggressive. If he could potentially be back week 1, not saying he will be back week 1, but if it's in the cards, if it's in the range of outcomes, I think coming out here talking about him as a player with serious concerns to miss half the season, probably not valid at this point, especially when we're getting him in the 18th round. Okay. So Najee Harris, Javonte Williams off the board. Javonte going early here at 14. This is the earliest I've seen Javonte Williams go in quite some time. I mean, Javonte would have been in play for us at pick 22 if he would have fallen. Very interesting. Just go out there. Go get your guy. Go get him. Okay. So let's move this over. We have DeAndre Swift at 16. That's similar to a start that we had in that $250 draft where we decided to go ahead and to take Dalvin Cook and DeAndre Swift through the first 2 rounds. Saquon Barkley, 17. So this draft's probably going to lead us to, I'm imagining, a Mark Andrews selection. Debo off the board. It's much more difficult now that you're less excited about taking Evans with the news about Godwin, as well as obviously Julio Jones coming over. Evans dealing with a nagging injury over the past few weeks. On top of all this, obviously Tom Brady hasn't been in camp. Like, Evans isn't as exciting as he was here at pick 22. Murat coming out says a 15th pick, half PPR out of 16. Do I go triple running backs or go for like a running back wide receiver combo like Swift and Jones, CD Diggs? Running backs in the 3rd and 4th are going to be Dylan Jacobs and Damian Harris. I would say if it's a 16-team league and you think that Damian Harris is going to be in play for you at the 3-4 turn, if I'm reading this correctly, you have to go through, you have to take running back. You have to go Swift and Aaron Jones through the first 2 rounds. You have to. If we think that we're going to get that wide receiver value later on, let's go through and let's take Swift and Aaron Jones. Paul says underdog ADP is the best. Yes, I'm not joking when I say this. I think, and I'm not saying it's just because, oh, the smartest drafters are on. I think the best drafters are on underdog, not because it's like, oh, Mason said it is. No, it's literally just because underdog has the biggest prizes and underdog has the biggest money drafts. Like, there's the most money on underdog. So that's just naturally where the best drafters are going to gravitate towards. So if you're looking at their ADP, looking at overall ADP like this is not really going to help you out. It's not going to help you out because this is specifically for underdog drafts where you have to start 3 wide receivers and it's going to be best ball. So wide receivers are going to fly up boards. Teams are going to draft quarterback 2s when they shouldn't, like compared to your casual redraft leagues. But if you were to just literally download the underdog ADP, like the quarterback list, the running back list, the wide receiver list, and if you were to use that as you go through your casual fantasy football draft, you would do quite well. You wouldn't be able to go off the overall list, but just the positional rankings. I do think it's because obviously there's the most money on underdogs. So that's where the best drafters just gradually go towards. But yeah, underdog ADP is very sharp. And also they update it like every 48 hours. It updates faster than any other site as well with their ADP. That's why it's very hard to like go out there and reach like 12 plus picks on a player on underdog with their ADP, because you know that, I mean, the market's probably pretty good at it. Okay. So we take T. Higgins here at 27. One thing that I really do need to point out is the team at 4 decides to go Andrews at 21, which I like the value in a vacuum. Kyle Pitts at 28, which I like the value in a vacuum, but to take them both on the same roster, that is going to be pretty difficult to get away with. What I will say is, if it was a tournament draft, I think you could do it. I think you can make the argument that you have a unique build. You could potentially, I don't know. I think you could like sneak an Andrews team through, sneak a Kyle Pitts team through to the tournament if one of them were to get injured, and then have the elite breakout for the very end of the season. But in like a private draft like this, I'm not going in on the bully tight end strategy like they do with Andrews, Kyle Pitts. I probably would have preferred to just go Keenan Allen. Okay. So we have Jalen Waddle off the board at 37. Probably pretty good for us to get Waddle off, just so you don't have to tease us with the potential. Jerry Jeudy 38. Travis Etienne 39. So at this point, well, I think we are wanting running back values on the way back around. I don't want to say too much about what our plan is, because obviously everybody in this draft is watching this live stream. And if you want to get in our next draft with us, make sure you go down there, drop a like on the live stream, and go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. On Underdog Fantasy, they have a real money best ball drafts, so you don't have to spend any time on them during the season since they're best ball. That's how I'm able to draft 600 of these teams this offseason, because I don't have to go through and submit that starting lineup as the year goes on. And when you sign up for Underdog Fantasy with the link in the description or the live chat, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. You will get our 2022 fantasy football rankings, and you will get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. Okay. Tommy coming out. Thank you, my friend. Says, speaking of how good Underdog ADPs is, Antonio Gibson's ADP is 90 on Underdog, but still 45 on Yahoo. Disgusting and disturbing. Yeah, that is crazy. And like, I think Underdog's ADP updates every 48 hours. So you will notice like, oh crap, Antonio Gibson's never going at this ADP. Galladay's never going at this ADP. Isaiah Spiller's never going at this ADP. These guys are plummeting. And you should expect like 2 days down the road that you have probably just a completely different draft board overall. So let's go with another wide receiver heavy approach in this draft. Let's take Allen Robinson here. And we have someone out here saying, I mean, who said, MH said flock country, let's ride. Oh my gosh. If I know obviously Russell Wilson makes way too much money to ever do like a cameo or something. But if he was on Cameo and we could go through and pay Russell Wilson to make an intro to the channel, let's just go flock country, let's ride, or let's fly. Oh, that would be crazy. That would be beautiful. Do we want to go Kittle here? No, let's take Akers. We don't have a running back yet. We'll take him here at pick 51. I mean, I think it's a fine value for our RB1. We take Allen Robinson as well, so we are getting some correlation here. We go flock country, let's fly. That would be so cool. I'm going to look up Russell Wilson cameo just in case, but my understanding of cameo, it's like C-list celebrities that don't have enough money. Yeah, Russell Wilson cameo. Yeah, there's no way in hell. Russell Wilson's made he's made over $100 million. He's not going to be on cameo. Yeah, he's not. Like, I think cameo is made for people like me, not people like Russell Wilson. Okay. Let's go through. M Breezy coming out. Thank you, my friend. Says, in Dynasty, why don't you have Lamb in the same tier as Chase and Jefferson? Lamb is the same age and is the wide receiver one on a good offense. because Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson just posted some of the best starts to NFL careers we've ever seen. They're on pace to be some of the best wide receivers in NFL history, and the highest we've ever seen CeeDee Lamb from a points per game basis. Wide receiver 16. Wide receiver 16. Yeah, so sadly, you can't put CeeDee Lamb in the same tier as Jefferson as well as Chase. Like, we're already very aggressive with where we're ranking Lamb. And if anybody wants to go through and make a Russell Wilson cut for me that says like, that's like an overlay of Russell Wilson saying like flock country, let's ride, or something along those lines. I don't know how talented you are of a video editor or of like doing something, changing the word. If you can make a nice meme, email it to me and maybe we can put it on a video. I'd like to see it. Maybe we can show it on the live stream. We're not going to be able to show it now, but email it to me. You can find my email address in the description of the video and be happy to see if we can get that put on anytime soon. Okay. So we have Metcalf off the board at 63. So Adam Thielen off the board, 65. Honestly, I don't even care if we get more wide receivers drafted. Like, we already have Jefferson, Evans, Higgins, and Allen Robinson. Do we really need too many more receivers? Brandon Ayuk off the board. We will take Elijah Moore if he falls. No, we're going to take Elijah Mitchell instead as our running back 2 here. Carly coming out says, thoughts on stacking Griff, Con, and Conway in a PPR format. I'd say you got a very high ceiling, but a very low floor at the same time. Very, very, very low floor. Definitely wide range of outcomes with that pairing. Okay. So we have Elijah Moore, 71. There are a couple different names I'd be excited about grabbing. Mark Cooper's really falling at this point. Tony Pollard, 72. Okay, I have a plan. I don't want to say it out loud, but we have a plan. Felipe says, what are some of the must-draft players this year? I'd say must-draft guys like Jonathan Taylor's probably that someone should go in every single draft. Christian McCaffrey should probably be drafted in every league. Austin Eckler, Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon. At the wide receiver position, I'd be looking at guys like Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase where we can. I think all those guys should be drafted. They're must-draft guys. Okay. Let's take Drake London here. Let's get our wide receiver 5. I don't think we're going to have to take too many wide receivers. I think that London, of course, is in a very bad situation in Atlanta, but at the same time, he's going to be in a spot where he should have a very high ceiling just based on the talent that he is. I mean, London was an elite level prospect. But Dalton Schultz off the board, 73. So Dalton Schultz, a player, usually I'm not drafting, but I actually was going to take Dalton Schultz if he fell to us at 75. That was our initial plan, simply because we had that team earlier on in this draft deciding to go through and deciding to take Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts on the same roster. Like, I think when they do that, we're going to skew the draft room enough at tight end where it would be advantageous for us if we have the potential to go through and grab a Dalton Schultz at 75. But obviously, we don't get that option. Okay. So we have Hunter Renfrow at pick 80 here. Probably good for us to see this run on wide receivers. I mean, at this point, we're through 7 rounds. We have 5 wide receivers that we feel very good about. In a private draft, we're not looking to add too many wide receivers. And Quest coming out says, thoughts on Kirk, Rondale Moore, and James Cook. Okay, I'm assuming you're asking Christian Kirk and not Kirk Cousins. I'd say in a shallow, casual redraft format, Cousins isn't someone that we should really be concerned with. Now, with Christian Kirk, I think you have a low ceiling, high floor player, given the role that he should have in Jacksonville. But at the same time, I'm not very excited about this offense. And then if we're going to be looking at a James Cook, I think that he is a player that I'm very excited about drafting at his ADP, given the fact that he should step in and be the receiving running back for Josh Allen in this offense immediately the day he steps on the football field, and he should have upside for more if there were to be an injury to Devin Singletary or if he ends up just earning the red zone role in that Buffalo Bills offense. I really like James Cook in that light. Beyond that, who was the last guy you asked about here? I think there's one other player, right? Rondale Moore. Rondale Moore, I'm not too excited about. Rondale Moore was an exciting wide receiver coming out of Purdue because he broke out at such an early age. And he was dominant at 18 years old. Like, at 18 years old, he was one of the best wide receivers in the country. Obviously, he had the size concerns, and those ended up playing out. So I know it's scaring a lot of people off Wan'Dale Robinson at this point. Okay, let's move this back around. We aren't dying for wide receivers here. I mean, if we get a wide receiver that we like at a value like Sky Moore, we'll probably go ahead and we'll probably take him. Mr. Right now, on the clock, they have two elite-level quarterbacks. They have Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. Dear God, going overboard with the quarterbacks here. Running back, they have Kamara Breece Hall. Wide receiver, they have Chase, Brandon Ayuk, and DeAndre Hopkins. Let's see what we're getting. Sky Moore goes pick 92. So that's great. We are going to get TJ Hawkinson. Hawkinson is one of my favorite picks at the tight end position. Hawkinson and Pat Freiermuth. I know Hawkinson falls in the line with those mid tight ends that we talk about not drafting. Tight ends that if they don't have tight end 1, tight end 2 overall upside, let's just pass on them entirely because the tight end 8 is the same thing as the tight end 20 in fantasy. I think Hawkinson still has access to the elite level ceiling. I think that he is an elite level talent. If we look at his progression in this offense over the past 3 years, he's been great, and he's an extremely young tight end as well. I think it's a very easy pick at 94. So we have Miles Sanders, 96. Tyler Lockett, 97. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's lock in probably Robert Woods here. I mean, with Robert Woods, I think that he is going to be a wide receiver that's perfect for this format, and that obviously he provides us that depth that we are going to need. And at the same time, we are going to get that production right away. So if we were in that tournament style draft, if you have the fantasy football playoffs in weeks 15, 16, 17, where we need to optimize for the end of the season, in that setting, I'm taking Treylon Burks over Robert Woods. In the private draft setting, when it's just who can score the most points weeks 1 through 17, we're going to go ahead. We're going to take Treylon Burks. When you have the playoffs, we're going to take Robert Woods when you don't. Okay. So let's go ahead. Let's move this down. Tyler Boyd goes 102. Treylon Burks at 101. Selfishly speaking, I mean, we're hoping that we've taken enough wide receivers to go through and skew the board ever so slightly. We'll see. We'll see. Now we have James Cook, Cordell Patterson off 103, 105. Honestly, I love the James Cook value as we were discussing earlier. If we didn't take Robert Woods, it would have been in favor of James Cook. But we've seen a lot of these drafts where we are able to go through. We are able to get a Cordell Patterson on the way back around at 118. So that's going to be the case. Let's go ahead. Let's take the wide receiver and see if we can get that running back value falling to us. Okay, so we have Melvin Gordon, 109. And one thing that I thought about, please let me know if y'all would be, let me know your opinion on this. Now, I never play video games, right? Never. I simply don't have like the time to do it anymore. But if y'all been a member of the flock for over a year now, y'all know during the season, I go through and I live stream every single night. Like I'm going to be live every single day for the next 200 days. And it's very fun for me to go live now. It's very easy. We get to go do these underdog drafts, which I legitimately have a ton of fun doing. But it does, once we're on like day 100 in a row, it does get a little exhausting. It gets tiring having to stream and talk nonstop for 4 hours every single night. So what would y'all think when we're doing those live Q&As during the season every single night? If I'm playing like NCAA football or I'm playing Madden, like kind of like a video game streamer, but still have it just as a live fantasy football Q&A where I don't even talk about what's going on in the screen. I'm just doing it to be able to entertain myself in the back of my mind and to be able to make the time go by faster and just answer your questions as we're going through and playing the game. Let me know your thought process. Let me know your thoughts on that. I don't know how effective I would be at still being able to answer every single question as fast as I do during the season. But I don't know if it would be more fun for me and more fun for you. So I don't know if y'all see us during the season, this is what we do. I sit like this and I go, John asked if we're going to start Nyheim Hines or Alexander Madison this week. We're going to start Alexander Madison because he's going to get 30 touches. Dalvin Cook's out. This is going to be the easiest thing we've ever, that's what we do for 4 hours. So I don't know if y'all would have more fun watching us instead go through and maybe play NCAA or so I don't even know how I would set this up and then answer questions on the side. I think I would have more fun doing that if I can. I don't know if my computer would be, I don't even know if I have like the correct setup for it. Okay. So let me see. Dan says, as long as I can play you in Madden. And that's one thing, guys. I don't want to make it seem like I would be like some video game streamer. It would literally just be a fantasy football live Q&A, exactly like we would do. I have not played a video game. I have not played video games in years. Like in years and years and years and years. Like last time I played like video games regularly, like say more than once every 6 months, would probably be high school, which was at this point, I graduated in 2017, so like 6 years ago. Graduated college 2 years ago. So yeah, like 6 years ago. I mean, we didn't even play video games senior year or junior year. I'll say I probably haven't played video games regularly in like 10 years. So I'm not going to be any good at them. Like, please don't think I'm going to be good at them, like trying to show off. I'm going to look very bad. It's going to be very bad gameplay. I'm just saying maybe it would be more exciting for y'all to watch that in the background and more exciting for me as well. Okay. So let's go through and let's move this over. My dog's coming in here. I think she got scared that there was something outside. This dog gets scared about literally anything. But since she's in here, I will use her to beg you for likes after we take Julio Jones 123. Zach Ertz going to be the super easy pick in this format. As we said, no fantasy football playoffs. We should be looking at him as someone with a very high ceiling through that first 6-week stretch with no DeAndre Hopkins. But let me go through, move this down. And yeah, we go Julio Jones here. I don't necessarily know what to do. All these running backs are about the same. But if you are not going to drop a like for me, make sure you go down there. Get up here. Drop a like for the prettiest girl in the world, right? Tell them. Say, drop a like. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK so Mason can feed me, right? Tell them how you like treats. Tell them how you like biscuits. I know. You got to get down. Okay. So we have Russell Gage, Jalen Tolbert going. Honestly, I do prefer Russell Gage over Julio Jones. Like if you're going to look at my rankings. Now, the reason we go Julio here is just simply because we need to have some diversification. Like we're going to be able to get Russell Gage at the 11-12 turn in a lot of drafts. We're never going to be able to get Julio Jones there. So let's just take Julio when he falls like 6 picks, passes ADP, and in another draft, we're going to be able to get Gage. Okay. So Rashad White, 129, and Nyheim Hines, 130. Paul says, were you in a fraternity? My friend, I graduated with 2 degrees, and I uploaded fantasy football videos every single day and for years. I had no time to do anything. Okay, so we have Pat Frymuth off the board, 133. Good thing for us to see these tight ends go. Honestly, we should probably expect more tight ends to come off the board relatively soon, since we saw that team double up on Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts at the 2-3 turn. And then we decided to go. I don't want to say we're having any impact on this tight end board as well. I mean, we only drafted TJ Hockenson and Zach Ertz. But it would be very nice for us when we're not going to draft another tight end to see more of these guys go. Okay. So let's move this over. Irv Smith Jr. off the board, 135. I think the Irv Smith Jr. price point here, 135, is much better than what it used to be when Irv Smith Jr. was at one point of the offseason going way, way earlier. I like the beginning of at the end of the 10th, the beginning of the 11th. So let's move this back around. Of course, at this point, we are going to be trying to come away with some running backs. We only have 2 on the team. We don't even have a single quarterback with this build either. This is definitely going to be a team where we probably are honestly going to slam in like 6, 7 running backs, depending on the value that falls. And then 3 quarterbacks. Definitely minimum 3 quarterbacks. So Isaiah Pacheco goes 139. Y'all know the running back that I like here. Y'all know who we're rooting for. Mr. Right now, it would be interesting. If I were them, I probably would have passed on tight end exactly like they do. Because if you're going to be looking at the fact that this team here is the one that decided to take Andrews and Kyle Pitts on the same roster, so they definitely can't take a tight end. We couldn't take a tight end either when we have TJ Hockenson and Zach Ertz. So it makes a lot of sense that even if they want Albert O, there's an outside chance that they're able to get him in the 13th round. So I think it does make a lot of sense why they passed on him in the 12th. Even if they didn't have a tight end and they needed one. Okay. So Lawrence at 141. Someone in the chat says, I wanted Trevor. Let me know your thoughts on, everybody in the chat, let me know your thoughts on Trevor Lawrence. Like, obviously, we can sit here and we can blame everything on Urban Meyer. We can say Urban Meyer was the worst NFL coach of all time, yada, yada, yada. But in reality, it was an atrocious, and I repeat, an atrocious rookie season from Trevor Lawrence. The only quarterback that was worse from an adjusted yards per pass attempt standpoint, and it was like barely worse at all, they were pretty much identical, was Sam freaking Darnold. Like, Trevor Lawrence was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL last year, if not the worst quarterback in the NFL. And of course, we can blame a crap ton of that on the situation that he was put in. He has Travis Etienne this year. He has Christian Kirk this year. He has Noah Meyer. I mean, Doug Peterson should be a significantly better coach. So yeah, his situation's a lot better, but it's kind of baked into the price here at 141. He has at least some rushing upside. I mean, but even like Daniel Jones is more rushing upside than to Trevor Lawrence. Okay, so Kevin Effect says the offensive line is still bad. AJ says Trevor will be a top 15 QB. AJ saying that Doug is going to improve the offense dramatically. Oh my gosh, Paul coming out here with just straight up nonsense at this point. Oh my gosh, listen to this message. With the weapons, T-Law can be as good as Justin Herbert. Did you hear that? You hear that? Yeah. The dog over here says you're crazy as well, my friend. Like, what are you talking about? If you ship Keenan Allen and Mike Williams over to Jacksonville for a bag of peanuts, and then at the same time, instead of Tyreek Hill being shipped to Miami, he went to Jacksonville as well, Justin Herbert will still probably have a better season with the combination of Joshua Palmer and Jalen Guyton than Trevor Lawrence. Like, that is an aggressive statement. Okay. I mean, his weapons got better. I mean, Zay Jones is probably even going to be playing here where, obviously, he wouldn't be playing if it was not better than what we had last season, but still. Very, very tough there. Okay, so Kenny Golladay off the board at 158. Tyler Algier, 159. Let's see what we are getting in here. We are so desperate for quarterbacks at this point. I mean, we are elite at wide receiver. We have Jefferson, Mike Evans, T. Higgins, Allen Robinson, Drake London, Robert Woods, Julio Jones. Pretty good at tight end. We have Hawkinson and Zach Ertz. Running back, we're okay. We have Cam Akers, Elijah Mitchell, Alexander Madison, Michael Carter. But we have absolutely nothing at quarterback. We are going to have to try to grab one of these guys here in the turn. Carly coming out. Thank you, my friend. Says, a flock, you've been inspiring me throughout my life. Hope the donations help. Hope one day we can discuss Big Rise, tight end one upside, and Conway's big dogness. Griffin is must. Thank you, my friend, of course, for coming out, supporting the channel, and I do really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, my friend. That's all I got to say. Just thank you so much. Okay. And Jamal Williams going 165. I don't like Matt Ryan. I never really draft Matt Ryan, but the thing is we have to take a quarterback here. We have no options, either QB or running back. Let's take Ryan. He falls 10 picks past. I have no reasoning for this. It's just we need a quarterback. Matt Ryan sitting at the top of the list by quite a margin. I mean, in a vacuum, I still probably prefer Daniel Jones, but I think there's a realistic shot that we get Daniel Jones on the way back around. Riley coming out says, just got home from school, evening classes. Oh, well, Riley, that is obviously probably not the most fun thing in the world, but pretty badass you're taking evening classes, my friend. That is pretty cool. Okay. Super happy for you. But we have Gerald Everett, Raheem Mostert, Daniel Jones off. So now that Dan Jones is off, do we even take another quarterback or do we just go J.D. McKissic? Let's go ahead, I guess. We're going to take J.D. McKissic. I think in this private draft, just getting the high floor is going to make a lot of sense. We don't necessarily need to chase the ceiling that you would have with maybe a Tyrion Davis-Price, an extremely run-heavy San Francisco 49ers offense. Jack says, what player burnt you the most in your fantasy football career? Okay, I really like this question. I've talked about this time and time again. And one of the reasons that I really have not talked a lot about this player over the past 2 years is because he burned me so bad. And he didn't only just burn me, he burned the people that were parts of the flock. I mean, that have listened to me for a very long time. I think if James P is still in the live chat right now, he should remember. So if y'all remember, 2018, you have Juju Smith-Schuster continuing his pace as one of the best wide receivers of all time at his age. Like legitimate wild production. You had a lot of smart people coming out saying, you know what, Hayes has a bunch of off the field distractions. You know what, Antonio Brown leaving is going to hurt, yada, yada, yada. And I said, y'all are idiots. You have no idea what you're talking about. Let's look instead at just the raw points we have seen at this age. And we went all in on Juju Smith-Schuster in 2019 as a round one dynasty startup pick, and it burned us. But would the story be good if we stopped there? No. We then followed it up the next offseason, and we said, yes, I know I just lost y'all a lot of money on Juju Smith-Schuster. I get it. I know. And I lost a lot of my own money on Juju Smith-Schuster. But he was injured last year. Ben Roethlisberger was injured last year. It was a fluke. This is still going to be one of the best wide receivers in the league. He's still a top 10 wide receiver for me. Best value in Dynasty. Trade for him everywhere you can. Draft him every. And then 2020 happened. So not only did we get so burnt on first round Juju Smith-Schuster, I then adamantly came out and talked about him being the best value buy low player. The opportunity of the century. Like, you don't know. I hyped it up a crap ton. And clearly that did not work out. So we have AJ Green, Sammy Watkins off the board, 182, 183. We still need another running back. We still need 2 more QBs. I think we probably just look to grab both quarterbacks on the way here at the 17-18 turn. And then we end up just getting whatever running back makes it back to us in the 16-17 turn and get whatever running back makes it back to us in the 18th. Nolan says, mine is Devin Funchess the year he opted out for COVID. Yeah, that was a wild time. I mean, that was the year when we didn't even know if we were going to have the NFL. That was back when, that was like right before we actually kind of blew up on YouTube and this became a full-time gig for me. Okay, so Mr. Right now on the clock. They don't have a single tight end. I'd imagine they have to go tight end. Look at the rookie running backs. They have Breece Hall, Brian Robbins, and Isaiah Spiller, Tyrion Davis-Price. They have rookies in Sky Moore, Treylon Burks. They bring in Isaiah Likely as well. Very interesting. We're going to go ahead. We're going to get Tannehill here, best player available according to ADP. On top of that, we have Robert Woods. So I think it's going to be a no-brainer selection. The Brevin Jordan, 191. Deshaun Watson's not going to be draftable in a private draft. In a tournament-style draft, 100% give me Deshaun Watson here with the upside that he has weeks 15, 16, 17. But in the tournament-style draft, you can't take him at the beginning of the 17th. Okay. So Jarrett McKinnon goes. Baker Mayfield off the board. So honestly, once Baker's off, we're going to go ahead. We're going to reach on a player extremely far down. I know that most people are going to prefer Davis Mills. I don't understand why. I think that Carson Wentz is a much better quarterback than Davis Mills. I think that Carson Wentz at the same time is in a much better situation, a better offensive line, a better supporting cast, better across the board. Like, I really don't even understand that. Maybe it's just because Davis Mills is young that people want to assume that we can just get some natural progression from year 1 to year 2. Is that what it really comes down to? Jack says Calvin Ridley for me last year. Oh yeah, if y'all were watching the Dynasty channel earlier this offseason as well, I was adamant that you should go through and you should buy low on Calvin Ridley before we got the year-long suspension. But crap like that, like you can't call that like a whiff. Like, yeah, I guess we whiffed on calling Calvin Ridley one of the best buy low candidates in Dynasty at the beginning of this offseason. But like, I'm sorry that we don't have crystal ball where I'm able to see on the other side of it that Calvin Ridley has a sports betting account where he's going out there betting on the Falcons. But I'm not going to count that. Like, I think that we can count the Juju Smith-Schuster as our worst call ever because that's just my fault. Like, there's no excuse I can come out here and make with that. I can try to make excuses, but at the end of the day, they would just be excuses. Okay. So we have Devin Duvernay, 203, Curtis Samuel, 201. I wonder, do you think, can I even stream like a video? Like, is if I was going to play a game, I would want to play NCAA. Like, that's like the only game I would ever play. I think I still have like NCAA 14 or whatever it was. I wonder if I can stream that on a Mac. Do you think so? Can I stream NCAA on a Mac? iHonk says Ridley used code FLOCK. Yeah. I mean, that's what happened. Like, Ridley was such a supporter of the channel. He went, yeah, I probably shouldn't be on Underdog Fantasy, but you know what? I want to support Mason. I want to get his draft guide. I want to get his rankings. And, you know, I really need that 100% deposit match. So let's go. Let's sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Let's use promo code FLOCK. And then he went and started betting on some player props on Underdog. Shake my head. Shake my head. Pat Wright says you can get NCAA 14 revamp free on PC. I don't exactly know what that means, my friend. Can I just download that and play it on my Mac? Can I do that on the Mac? Because I know, aren't like PCs and Macs different? Hartnell says, I wish I could see how close we were to 1.3 thousand likes. We are 54 likes away. If y'all want to see another draft of this one, go down there and drop a like in the stream. I assume that most people didn't want to see another draft of this since we've been live for this long. But if you want to see another one, go down there, drop a like in the stream. If we hit 1,300, we'll fire up another draft. I think we are 54 away at this point. Okay. Let's move this down. We need a running back. I think you make an argument that possibly we take QB by now. Let's just go running back. And I really like the value of Logan Thomas here. Like, I think Logan Thomas is one of the more appealing players if you're going to get him at 2. I mean, if you're going to get him in the 18th round in general. Is Joshua Kelly off the board? Yeah, Joshua Kelly was drafted. Gus Edwards is very hard to draft here. Do we just go ahead and take Sermon? We're probably going to take Sermon. I'll give some time to see if y'all are going to go there, try to hit that buzzer beater, drop those likes, get us to 1,300, fire up the next draft. So we'll let this run down with Trey Sermon. Let me show off this draft board for anybody just now coming into the stream. And of course, thank you all so much for coming out, hanging out with us tonight. I appreciate all of you. If you want to get in our next draft, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code FLOCK when you sign up. They'll match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our 2022 fantasy football rankings. You'll get our 2022 fantasy football draft guide. And of course, you can have some fun. You can get into these drafts on the live stream with us. But I think that's it. Yeah, we're still like 30 likes away from hitting that mark. So it is what it is. I will be happy to go through. I will be happy to draft with y'all tomorrow night on the live stream. I appreciate all of y'all so much. I'm going to send a link to our free fantasy football group chat out there in the live chat right now. If you want to join, cool. I'm happy to have you. If you don't really care. It's a completely free link. You don't need an email. You don't need a credit card. You don't need anything. Dan Sky says, you think Underdog is going to open a Puppy 4 tournament? They tweeted out Puppy 4 with like little eye emojis like a week ago. So yes, I think so. I think it would be kind of crappy for them to tweet out Puppy 4 with eye emojis and then didn't launch one. I never expected them to be honest. I thought that they were just going to focus in on getting Best Ball Mania filled. So I didn't expect them to launch a Puppy 4, but based on that tweet, seems like it'd be pretty tough for them to tweet Puppy 4 and then never release a Puppy 4. But thank you. I appreciate all of y'all so damn much. Hope you have a great night, and I hope I get to see you out with the live stream.